Otero County Commission meeting of Thursday, September 7th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order and have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Markworth?
Here.
Commissioner Mather?
Here.
Commissioner Burrow?
Here. Y'all stand for the invocation, please. Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for gathering us all here today in your presence. We pray for your discernment, your wisdom, and your grace. We are so thankful for all of our law enforcement that are here today. We ask for your protection over all of them as they go about their day and their travels. We're also thankful for Willie Estrada and people like him that will serve our country. And we ask for your blessings on his family. We ask this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. You can all face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag, the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures.
All right, we've got two proclamations today. I'll read the first one for Sergeant Willie Estrada Day. Whereas Sergeant William Estrada was born in Alamogordo, Otero County, New Mexico on June 8, 1929, and whereas Sergeant Willie N. Estrada was inducted into the U.S. Army in January 1951, and whereas Sergeant Willie N. Estrada served with the 10th Battalion, 45th Infantry Division, and whereas Sergeant Willie N. Estrada was killed in action on 22nd of September 1952 near Bangawal, Korea, and whereas Sergeant Willie N. Estrada is the only recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross from Otero County, and whereas Sergeant Willie N. Estrada is one of only 27 Distinguished Service Cross recipients from the entire state of New Mexico. Now therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Otero County, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the 22nd day of September as Sergeant Willie N. Estrada Day, and we urge all citizens to recognize and participate in its observance. Proclaimed during the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners the 7th day of September, 2023. And our next proclamation is for the 2023 Leo Proclamation. Whereas the men and women of our local law enforcement agencies have taken an oath to protect and serve the citizens in their communities throughout Otero County, New Mexico, and whereas law enforcement officers take significant risk every day to perform their duties and responsibilities and to ensure that the rule of law is maintained, and whereas Otero County is the proud home of dedicated law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line to keep our citizens and their belongings safe, and whereas the commitment of our local law enforcement officers to continue training, skill enhancement, and interagency coordination make them vital members of Alamogordo and every community throughout Otero County. And whereas law enforcement officers play such an integral part in our society, they are guardians of our way of life and they deserve our support. And whereas Otero County also recognizes the significant sacrifices made by the families of our law enforcement officers and welcome the occasion to show them how much they are appreciated. And whereas law enforcement officers are such a cherished asset to this grateful community, now therefore we, the Board of County Commissioners of Otero County, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the 16th day of September as Thank a Police Officer Day, Otero County Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and encourage all citizens of Otero County to demonstrate gratitude to the law enforcement men and women who protect, serve, and keep us safe. Proclaimed during the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners the 7th day of September, 2023. I say yay. We've got a lot to cover.
Madam Commissioner, can we get a photograph of your law
Absolutely.
officers with y'all?
Sean Jett, up here, buddy. I know you thought you were going to not have to get up here, but
He just forgot to wear his uniform.
he's undercover.
Okay, y'all are gonna have to squeeze in, because hold your breath. Squeeze it in, hold your breath.
Are you trying to tell me to suck it in?
I think I've told you that before.
John did this morning.
I am gonna. glad you like each other.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Okay, good
All
job.
right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, thank you, Rocky. Thank you.
You already got one. You already got one. Your daughter.
I saw that. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're going to move on with the sheriff's office report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, just got a brief statistical update for you for the month of August. You drew the short straw today. The sheriff is currently at an executive board meeting out of town, so you got to put up with me. For August, the Otero County Sheriff's Office responded to 2,773 calls for service. As a result of that, there was 248 investigative reports generated. They conducted 68 traffic crash investigations that resulted in 72 arrests. 6 summons were issued. There was 172 traffic citations issued. For narcotics activity, 3 search warrants were executed for the month of August, 2 agency assists, which generated 25 case reports. There were 4 fugitives apprehended as a result of those operations. A little over 19 grams of meth, 100 grams of cocaine, and 69 fentanyl pills were seized as a result of that activity for August. Approximate street value for the illicit narcotics is $13,000. Special events and public relations that were attended in the month of August. There was a HIDA conference, which is a high-intensity drug trafficking area conference. And our task force actually did receive recognition for their efforts in Region 6, part of the state. Our DARE personnel attended the back-to-school backpack giveaway in Chaparral for the month of August. Deputies attended the annual New Mexico Sheriff's Conference in Ruidoso. And we hosted a DARE state conference in Ruidoso in the month of August. To training, mostly what's left for the remainder of this year will be meeting the requirements for our biennium training, which will be primarily done online. It won't be in person, we'll be doing it online just to finish up the year. We did conduct a FTO selection interview and a board, and we had a couple of deputies that were successful in being assigned as field training officers. That would be Deputy Justin Mitchell, Deputy Alex Rankin, and Deputy Wells. Also, we were fortunate enough to have a successful candidate in their sergeant's promotional exam, which resulted in Jonathan Gutierrez being promoted to the rank of sergeant. Staffing. On the end of August, Deputy Webb, he officially retired from the courthouse security, which did leave a vacancy, which we'd already had somebody that had already been in the background that was ready to go through pre-academy, and they will be assigned over there, so that position has been filled. We have currently 2 deputies that are in the academy in Santa Fe. They're slated to graduate, I believe, around November timeframe. We have 2 that just recently graduated that are finishing up their field training officer program, which will be somewhere around the end of September, middle to end of September, if they're successful. We have, let's see. Oh, we had the testing. We had 21 applicants for the August 12th hiring assessment. 6 passed the physical assessment and 4 passed the written portion of the testing. We still, of course, have background and psychological exam and several other things that we have to do. It's looking very good, though, as far as staffing. Equipment, we received a total of 10 new Tahoes over the last few months. They're currently working on getting them upfitted. The first 2 Tahoes should be out in the next week or so. And with that real brief report, I stand for questions.
I don't really have a question, I'm more of a comment, but I understand there's burgers for badges in Las Cruces on Saturday.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know that we're gonna send some of our officers over to help support that, so I appreciate that, because I understand Doña County is not supporting that for
Yes.
reasons unknown to me. Yeah, but, so anyway, thank you for sending some of our people over. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Good morning, Commissioners. Matt Clark, Emergency Services Director.
Morning.
For August, code enforcement opened up 85 cases, identified 6 buildings for dilapidated requirements, completed 49 follow-ups, closed up 21 cases, and completed 2 fire investigations. The slash pit had 154 loads in and 17 loads out. Rose Avenue is still in court. We don't have any update from that. 15 First Street, there's been no improvements. So we're pressing them to keep cleaning. 21 Quail Trail, we have no updates, no improvement from the property, but no updates from RB on where to send citation, violation notices. 4401 North Florida, no improvements. We're waiting on citations. We're just going to keep sending them violations until they clean it up or until we get into the citation phase. 28 Critter has a 30-day notice to clean up, and there has been no improvements yet. 53 Otero has a 30-day notice. No improvements yet. 25 Roadrunner, we have the resolution posted on site as of August 29th. And I have no updates on Sun Valley, the Minix. We've been advised that we need to start the citation process. We're working with New Mexico DPS to get our citation numbers so that we can start that to get those into court so our code enforcement can start writing the citations. Once we get that, we'll be able to start writing the citations. Until then, we have to keep doing the violations.
So that is what you're calling the citation phase?
Waiting on our citation number from the state, because then that number gets tracked through the state court system and it'll be assigned to our code enforcement officers.
So you can't issue a ticket or anything or a violation?
We can issue the notice of violations like we have been, but I cannot direct them into court till we hit that get our citation tickets, because then that is a non-traffic citation that goes straight into magistrate court.
So how long is it going to be before we get this?
We're hoping to be able to get the number this month, and then we should be able to start. The other part is we have to get all our dash cams installed, because we will be making public content. We will be meeting with the public, so we have to have that recorded.
I really wish we'd hurry up and get this done, Matt.
Yes, sir. The volunteers responded to 218 calls of service. 12 of them were for fires, 173 for EMS rescue calls. And then Dunnigan went under an ISO evaluation back in April, and they received word that they improved from an ISO 4 to from an ISO 5 to an ISO 4. So I want to congratulate them on all of their hard work.
Do you have any information on that fire I asked you about? Have you gotten?
I have information. I can talk to you after the meeting on it.
All right. Anything?
I emailed on the 28th about 26 Roadrunner. They said that they were complaining of a smell, possibly dead animals. Did you get a chance to look into that?
They went over and spoke with the owner on them and briefed them on their next steps.
Okay. And then I seen this morning you replied to me about Timberon. Richard said that he's been trying to get these to auction for 2 years.
Richard,
From Timberon Fire Department. So if we can help him do whatever we need to do to get those vehicles moving. And then I see you emailed me back this morning too about the 4x4 truck for
Mhm.
Borough Flats, and you think that you found one?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
And we're just waiting on pricing and will it work.
It seems like that might go over budget a little bit.
We don't know on the four-wheel drive, but if they go back and take the two-wheel drive, yes, that's over budget.
If the two-wheel drive will be over budget, you
The
think?
two-wheel drive went up $100,000.
Okay. Can you just keep me posted on that, whatever, thank you. And then I got a call, I emailed that about on 7 Swenson Drive.
They opened a case on it.
Okay, great. And then I need help wrapping my head around how fire departments or how fire trucks are equipped and how that inventory is maintained. So, let's say clothing. We buy clothing every single month. Where does that clothing go? Does it go to the truck? Does it go to the station? And how do we keep track of that clothing? Just for example, I'm just throwing that as,
So the departments under the clothing, if it's uniforms, they're issued out to the members. And then when they leave, they should be getting them back. And then if it's the protective clothing, again, it sits in storage and then gets issued out. And then that comes back when the member leaves. And then bunker gear, the protective clothing, has a shelf life and a wear life that has to be replaced all the time. So most departments set it up so that they're buying just a couple sets because of the cost every year.
so we're spending, it looks like $8,000 to $12,000 a month on clothing. And that's why I asked that question, is because how much more clothing do we need to buy? You know, what is the length, the wear? Is it a year? Is it one fire? Is it, what is?
PPE is 10 years, but if it gets destroyed in one fire, that needs to be replaced. It has to be inspected after use, cared for. Sometimes it can be fixed, sometimes it can't.
And do you oversee the purchases of that?
I do not.
Okay, can you look into that and see?
I can.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong, and hopefully reading it wrong, that we're buying that much clothing. And then, I know that we do annual inventories for our fire departments, but it just seems that there's excessive spending. So how do we start tracking the departments or what is needed? And then when we're outfitting a truck, how do we make sure that those tools are assigned to that truck and not move from truck to truck to truck? How do you keep track of that?
Each department keeps track of their own inventory, and the equipment tools can be moved from truck to truck. If a truck goes out of service and they need a tool on it or extra tools, they'll move them around. Tools break, have to get replaced.
I get that, it's just a lot. And I know we have a lot of fire departments, I'm just trying to get our spending under control. And just wanted to see, you know, maybe the last inventory, can you send that so we can see where we're at, and then we can look at all we're buying and.
I can work on that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Anything? Okay, all right, thank you, Matt.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Porter, Otero County Road Department.
Good morning.
So for last month, we had one major flood event up in Penasco. Spent about 3 days up there rebuilding that road. We spent 2.5 weeks down in Chaparral doing a major patch blitz and brush blitz. We finished up West Higuera and High Sierra subdivision for chip seal. And we should be commencing with that next week, Mother Nature permitting. We did some ditch work and culvert work up on Mogollon Trail, Danley Ranch Road, Riata Road, hauled pit run in on Stevens Draw, Danley Ranch Road, Herschel White, Potato Canyon, and Three Rivers, and all those are from that rain event that we had. And patching up in 16 Springs, we just dumped right at $25,000 worth of hot mix up there in 16 Springs, getting that road back ready for this winter.
Been busy. And had another rock slide.
No, we didn't.
The state did.
State had another rock slide.
The issue with the gentleman up on 16 Springs with the gravel in the yard and stuff, are we getting that taken care of?
RB and I are working on that one, and that was up off of 11 Apache. And
Probably not gonna like the answer. Those berms probably shouldn't have been put in, and the road needs to be gravelled. People want it gravelled, you know, you can either have gravel on your road and accept that when it rains, when you live on the side of a mountain, some of it's gonna wash on your property, or you cannot have gravel. It's kind of what it comes down to. But the water being directed off certain properties and not others, it just needs to flow on all properties. This subdivision was approved without planning for drainage. Again, it's on the side of a mountain. The road isn't to county specs. It's a tiny, narrow road, and the water's got to go somewhere. And if it's all directed down the road, it's going to wash out the road every time it rains. And it'll be additional money and resources that the county has to expend to maintain the road. And while they're in the process of doing that, the road's going to be washed out and potentially unusable, and that's a worse situation than some gravel flowing on property.
So basically, you're gonna put it back the way it originally should have been and without the berm?
eventually, yes, we will.
It's going to take some work because it's going to take a lot of dirt.
We're dealing with some of these roads that have been, just cut down, cut down, cut down. And now that Vance is in there trying to pull it back to where we're not losing the roads every time it rains, we're gonna have a few more complaints coming, I guarantee it.
But we're not gonna leave a powdered, muddy mess
No.
when we leave. It'll be
No,
back
it's
to
rock.
gravel and
It is
material.
rock. Yep.
Shouldn't have too many complaints then, till the rock washes off.
You guys ever use that caliche, like they will use in Eddy County, the caliche for the roads?
I try to stay away from caliche as much as I can. It disintegrates once it gets wet, and we have enough rain here that, it does not do us any good to use caliche.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
I had another meeting in Bent, and they were showing me pictures. It was right after the big rains, and they were showing me pictures. Sorry, I don't have this on. And that pink house with the blue trim, right at the bottom of the valley on Bent Road, that water was all the way up to her front porch, because that culvert that's got the grader in it is completely full of dirt. That culvert goes under the road across.
Yep.
Is that something that we can clean out?
And that is another one that RB and I are working on with the state, because I think they
That's
just...
on Bent Road?
Yes.
They sent me the transfer agreements, and I got to finish reviewing them and then put them on next month's meeting, and then the roads will be transferred over to us and officially ours. So far, I don't know where the house is that you're talking about, but what appears to be the main subdivision out there vacated their plat in the early 90s and replatted so that they took back all of the roads from the county and accepted maintenance for them. We've been maintaining them, but we potentially probably shouldn't have. So that's something we're going to have to talk about and weigh.
The culvert you're talking about also is the culvert, the gentleman that owns where it drains out was complaining that when that culvert does run, floods out his fields. So it,
I was getting to that next.
yep.
So,
That's the same culvert. The section that RB is talking about is up there off of Muggione Trail and Kidd, in that area where they had the other complaints about that berm that was in there. Those are actually, from the looks of it, not our roads.
and I went and looked at it better too, and that water berm is actually on the inside of that fence, that drainage ditch.
Again, talking to the district guy that takes care of that area, the property owner is the one that built that and told us, explained to you in that first meeting we had that we built that berm. We didn't build that berm.
And then where from across from that pink house where it goes under and where the post office goes under also, and he doesn't want to accept, he's got that field and he doesn't want to accept that water. There's their water drainage that it was coming down. Then you have this culvert that kind of goes like this, and that's what aims to his property.
It was
His
there before.
request, this is not my scope, is to divert the water to go into that drainage or
Again, that'd be
or
working on
irrigation.
private property, and we can't do that.
I-
And that was running there before he bought that property,
Okay,
so.
that's, okay, and then La Luz and Alamo, I know we talked about that.
Again, I met with RB on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're kind of hands tied because it'd be working on private property. And there's no easement in there for us to put any kind of guardrail in there. And I had Under Sheriff Jett do a little bit of research on it, and as far as he can tell, that was the only accident that he knew of in the last 20 years. That was a major accident there, so.
Okay,
And you said even if we did put a guardrail there, based on how that accident occurred,
They had a punch
it
right through
probably
it.
would have punched through the
Yeah.
guardrail and ended up in the house the way it did. Anyway,
so it sounds like it's civil with their insurance.
Mm,
the insurance should be, hopefully they have insurance that covers
Right.
the cost of that damage.
Well, she's got $97,000 in damages
Yeah,
from that
that's-
accident.
yeah.
Gonna be between her insurance and then also whoever caused the accident.
And then, of course, well, she had my ear, she was complaining about the food drive and the parking and the congestion in that intersection. I mean,
There's nothing we can
I
do for
know,
that.
but it just.
Yeah, I get numerous calls about that too, and I refer them all over to the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Because most of that, where they're parking is private property, but, they've been doing this for how many years, and it's hard to break old habits.
Yep.
And on Sundays and Saturdays, the parking lot's just as full and parking along the shoulder for church services. And I could be wrong, but the church it's pretty old. It's been there a while.
Okay, that's all I have. I have another meeting in Bend scheduled. Do you want to go with me?
That sounds very fun. Just, let me know the date and I'll
Okay.
Yeah.
get prepared.
Okay.
What's the status on the 506? Any update on it, on the repair of it?
Tom got the data to us yesterday, and we are, I need to talk to him about it to get additional details on the cost, or explain the sheets to me, and then I will send that to the White Sands Missile Range Legal Office so they can complete and file the claim. The claim, we've been waiting on getting them that data to be able to distinguish the cost for what the military operations distinguish that from normal wear and tear. So Tom had to gather all of the maintenance data for that section of the road, and then the rest of the section of the road, so we can do a breakdown. And it's the only way I can think to some way demonstrate and distinguish damage caused by the military.
And they told us that it would take 18 months on this deal to get turned around to be reimbursed on it, and we're not but 2 months away from that 18 months.
And that's on us, not them. So as soon as that gets submitted, they can finalize the claim.
Have we heard anything on the tank crossings?
I have not heard anything
I
on
haven't
that,
either.
but I will follow up to see what the status is on that.
Because I've been getting phone calls, I've been getting, thank you for doing the best you can. They realize that it's supposed to be repaired, but they want to know when. So, thought I'd ask, so I'll be able to answer that question.
And one more. I got a complaint that the road is closed up Three Rivers just past the church. Isn't that Muscalero?
So a portion of that road runs through Muscalero. It is closed because that upper campground is closed. That is the U.S. Forest Service. And actually talking to them 2 months ago, because we just had another flood up there too, they're not planning on opening that campground. And probably earliest would be December, and the easiest way to deal with the traffic going up through there, because the ranch manager lives basically at the end of that road, and there's no reason for any traffic to be in there other than ranch traffic. So that's why they closed it at the church.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
That's also access to the forest up there.
That part of the forest is closed because of the flooding concerns.
Anything else?
I think I remembered everything.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Good morning, Commissioners. Trent Parker, Project Manager.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First up is Chin's Phase 3. We are waiting on a few of the required documents to come back from the contractor so that we can submit to DFA for their concurrence approval. And then we'll be able to go ahead and proceed with scheduled work on that project. The PSAP project, Phase 2, the administrative area, is scheduled to begin next Monday, September 11th. Phase 2 is scheduled to take 240 days, and with the early start of Phase 2, we are currently going to be about 2 months ahead of schedule on that project. So we're hoping to push through and get it done. I think we'll even gain some more momentum. The contractor has most of the materials stored on site, so that helps us with any delays in materials or anything like that. The Burrow Flats water storage tank, we have the foundation complete. Now we're just waiting on the tank to be manufactured and delivered and installed, and that'll have them back up with their water storage up there. The Mitel phone upgrade system is complete. Alamo Phase 2 has been on suspension for utility relocations. That's scheduled to go back in next week. We have a meeting, construction meeting on that to get it back going. We're going to start work in areas that are not affected by the utility relocates, and then we're still pushing to get the few locates that have to be done completed. Riata Pecos Bridge is on the agenda today to be awarded to Rock Canyon Construction, so then we can push forward with getting contracts signed and get that bridge going. Not happy about that. The Susie Ann Bridge will be on next month's commission agenda for awardment, and then we'll be able to move forward with getting that project going as well. The road shop doors, they're we replaced the south doors last year, we're replacing the north doors this year. We have electrical this weekend going in for that. The doors will be here in a couple weeks to be installed, and then that will be complete. The new building for the road shop that we put up last year, we got the electrical engineering completed on it. We've got the approval from P&M for the new service, and now we're working on getting a scope of work put together to get the electrical in that building where Tom and Eric can both utilize that. Shooting range expansion, we had the bid opening this month. The low bid is on the agenda today for recommendation to R.D. Blankenship for that project. The original budget was $165,000. Their price to complete all work that was associated with that came in at $88,000. So we're pretty happy. We're well under budget on that.
Was that the extension of
That's to build the 4 new general purpose bays.
Right.
Expand the 360-yard bay back to 400 yards and construct the new 100-yard bay. And another thing that we added in there that's going to improve the facility a lot is their water retention area was very small, so when they get heavy rains, it would overfill. So we're expanding that retention area, about pretty much tripling it in size. And that's about all I have.
Okay, well, we'll talk about the roofing deal a little later, so we'll leave that one there.
Good. Thank
Thank you, Trent.
We've missed you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nina Sisler, Correctional Service Director, Otero County Detention Center. Today, for August, our average population was 213. Today's overall population was 179. We do have 144 in-house, 123 males, 21 females. I do have 12 at Otero Prison, 14 at Hudspeth, 1 in Lincoln County, 1 on furlough, 1 at Las Vegas Behavioral Health, 4 on furlough, and I have 2 at a 60-day diagnostic at Los Lunas Correctional. I have no juveniles presently. Yay. In facility, we've had 48 municipal court hearings. Magistrate, we've had 131 for the month of August. District Court, 127. In-person courts, we've had 11 in magistrate and 1 in district. I have 17 vacancies, and I have an interview on Friday. I should have 2 starting next week, hopefully, or soon after. She worked there previously, so her interview's on Friday, so we'll do the full process, and hopefully everything will go well. And we had 1 contraband incident with fentanyl. We transported 9 males to the Department of Corrections, Central New Mexico Correctional Facility in Los Lunas, New Mexico. 4 females were transported to New Mexico Women's Correctional Facility in Grants, New Mexico. I did have the public library did donate quite a few softback books to the detention center, so my library is quite full right now. And I had the Census Bureau come in. They do an annual visit, and they interview like 10 inmates every year, and so that was completed as well.
Well, that 17 vacancy numbers, that sounds high, but that's really good.
It's really good.
Really
Yeah.
good. It's getting better.
So
Yeah, a lot
Yes,
better.
much
So-
better.
your program must be working. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
That video,
Sometime in September. I will email him. I don't have an exact date. They do have a picture. I don't know of all the participants, which came out very nice. Very professional, very nice picture with all the different, most of the detention centers were in this area, and the picture was very well done. I can send it out to you guys if you like. I haven't seen any of the media, and
I've seen a couple, but it hasn't been any of the locals.
yeah.
And then the secondary phone line, are we still trying to work on that? Are we still trying to work that into the broadband thing? Are you fixed or?
I think what me and Pamela were talking about was for it to go, I'll have to ask him, I can't remember, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Got a lot. I'll look it on his last email to see what he had put in there and see what it is.
Okay, because we have an opportunity
To
get funding out there from TBTC. I know that you're serviced by TDS now.
Right.
So I don't know how the logistics works,
Right.
but that's kind of the only way we can get a secondary line out there.
Okay.
And they said that it's $60,000 to do that, but there's actually money that's out there we can grab, especially that small amount to get it done pretty quickly.
Quickly.
So, tell them to let me know about
Okay.
that too. Thank you.
I will. Anything else?
Anything
Thank you.
else?
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're moving on to the consent agenda, and we're gonna pull item number one for discussion. You wanna pull it, you wanna discuss it first, or at the end?
Whatever you want.
Do you need somebody else in here to,
I have lots of questions.
okay.
Yep. See me just.
We'll
Just
go
have
ahead.
at it?
Yep, I'll read
Okay.
it, okay. Consent agenda item number one, request approval of accounts payable bill number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8.
You ready for me?
You
Okay.
go
I
for
thought
it.
you were going to read the whole thing. Sorry.
Oh.
Okay. So first question. How, when we're going through the payables, how do we see if the department is going over budget or not without having the budget book right next to us and looking at these payables?
As far as for you all to see that in real time, you'd have to have access to the software. Finance usually, we don't see things upstairs until after the purchase is already made, and then it comes through accounts payable to be paid. So I know right now Wendy Robinson is working on getting all of the purchasing done through an online system where all the requisitions would be done by each department online. It'll go through an approval process. So that will help with, cutting down on certain spending, making sure things are posted to the correct line items. The one thing that we're trying to figure out how to do is to, I think with the online requisition process, it will not allow you to make a purchase if you don't have enough money in the line item. So right now, the system will allow the purchasing specialist to go in and enter a requisition, and even if there's not enough money in the line, they can still enter it. They'll get just a warning notification, hey, there's no money here. They can enter the requisition, do the PO, the purchase can be made, and then at a later time, when we see that that line item is in the red, we can move budget from another line item to cover it. But I think what will happen with the online system is it will not allow that purchase to go through until budget is moved from somewhere else. So that will happen on the front end rather than on the back end. And it will hopefully allow these departments to have a little better handle on what they're actually spending. Now, they do receive copies of their budget reports as far as like all the fire departments, because they're all, throughout the county. It's a little bit harder for them to get some of that information. So they are sent those budgets for the prior month, the first week of the following month, so they can see where they're at. But yeah, sometimes it's difficult because we'll find things on the back end that, oh, well, this should have been paid for out of a different line item, or maybe this is something that may not be an allowable expense for this particular fund and it needs to be moved to somewhere else where it is allowable. So that's a frustration for us as well, because I don't have control over purchasing. I don't see what goes through there until after the fact when I see the bills list, and by then it's essentially already paid.
Okay. And I see Mr. Barney's here. This question might be for you. On video surveillance, we have 2 checks going out that both total $150,000-ish. Is this a recurring expense? Is this a one-time that you're trying to develop, or?
I'm not sure which that would be, if it would be the video surveillance for the,
It's the APIC,
yeah,
APIC Solutions.
So
That's,
then
I
the
think,
EOC and the PSAP, it should have just been the initial install.
Okay, so we're done. $150,000, these two checks, and it's done. Okay. And then, so I bring up the budget question because we have a check that is written $2,000 over budget than what we approved during the session. And so it is for the clerk's office, Vandalay Solutions. During the budgets, we approved $8,000, and this is a $10,000 check. So what do we do about that?
I would have to look at what was approved and what the line items were. And I know there's some budgetary discretion if you, you know, it's a projection. And so you think you're going to use this much for this item and that much for this other item. And item A ends up being more than expected and calculated, but item B, you haven't used any of it and you're not going to, so you're able to shift funds from that line item to cover the other line item.
And
and I know that's common. So as far as if this would be a violation of anything, I couldn't say right
No,
now.
I don't feel like it's a violation, but we're trying to control the budget, and we just spend money like it's growing on trees. And
Yeah.
so what do? We allowed $8,000, and it's $10,000, and then next month we've allowed $500, and it's $700 next month. So where do we draw the line? Because we're going to go over budget.
In some instances, a department would need to come in and request additional funding. That's one way to do it. Another way is if they are able to shift funds from, like I said, one line item to another. That's another way to tackle it. I say because a budget and what gets approved is a projection, and we all know over the last 3 years, costs are just they're just stupid, and they keep increasing. And you know, one of our construction projects could be budgeted for $1 million, and based on how material costs have increased and stuff, it could double. And either you know, whoever's handling that, if they had funds in something else that were not going to be needed, they could shift those. But if not, then that's when they have to come in and put their hat in their hand and say, hey, commission, this is what happened, costs have increased, and in order to do this, we need to find an extra $500K.
So at what point do we as a commission say, you're overspending, we don't approve that?
well, one of the things that you can look at is, for example, item number 6. Of course, this one is mostly the carryover adjustments from the prior year, meaning any purchase orders that were still open and we either had not received the item or we received it and it hadn't been paid yet, those purchase orders automatically carry over the remaining balance or the remaining funds from the prior year to the current year. But anytime, each month, almost every month, I'm doing a budget adjustment resolution for something. A lot of times it's for grants that we just received, so I need to budget for those. But those budget resolution items are items that are actually changing the bottom dollar amount of our budget. So if they have an item that was expected to be 8,000 and now it's 10,000, if they have somewhere within their current budget that's not going to change the bottom line, it is allowable for them to move funding from another area. So for example, a lot of times salary and benefits we have to budget for all those vacancies. So if they have a vacancy, I'll also budget for full benefits. And so if they fill those vacancies and that new person doesn't take full benefits, well, then there's a savings in their health and their insurance line items. And so sometimes they can have a little bit of wiggle room there that they can move funding to cover another item that ended up being more expensive than what they originally projected. So if it's within their current budget, because the current budget that they have has been approved by the commission as part of the final budget. But then each month, when I bring these budget resolutions, those are for new items that were not previously budgeted. And usually it's an increase of revenue and expense that offsets each other, so it's really a net zero increase. For example, the grants. So if you get a $100,000 grant, I'll budget $100,000 in revenue and $100,000 in expense, and it's a wash. But those are the items to look at to see where we're increasing expenses in different areas, and maybe look at that and ask why is that happening. But unfortunately, I understand what you're saying, and there's really not a whole lot, there's nothing preventing them from moving money from line to line if they feel like they're not going to expend as much as they originally thought in this line, or maybe they'll choose to not purchase something there because something else is more important and maybe it's a little more expensive, so they'll move funding to cover the more expensive object or item.
And then do we have a check here for Burt Broadcasting for $2,200 for advertising for 1 month, and that's for the DWI program. Do we have any kind of data that shows that that advertising is effective, that we're going to be spending that much money? You know, I know we need to do it, but $2,200, that's every commercial. So is that...
That particular program is grant funded.
Okay.
So it's, you know, they have that funding to use in the ways that, you know, it's a state-run organization, and they're part of the local effort on it. So a lot of that they get directed to do.
Okay.
But
let's see, I already asked about firefighters. Let's see.
Do we need to get Matt in here? Is that a question?
He answered my question. We'll see. The ice machine's been answered. There's that 10,000. When we charge stuff to credit cards, it kind of seems like the spending is a little more free. They can just say what they spend is not, that transaction isn't categorized like an individual check is categorized. How do we maintain those to make sure it doesn't get overspent?
the credit card, there's only currently one, I believe, and that's with purchasing, and no one is able to use it except under the supervision of the purchasing officer. And our new purchasing officer reached out to me yesterday with a proposal for writing and developing a credit card use policy, which we need. Like a year ago, it was a little bit more accessible, and somehow the number that the credit card data was obtained by a bad actor, and there were fraudulent charges, and since then they've locked it down tight. I don't even know how to. I could use it. I need to use it. I'm paying for some expenses out of pocket because I can't figure out how to pay them for them without a credit card, but I also can't figure out how to use our credit card. So, so unless that's like with one of the volunteer fire departments or something.
It looks like random departments.
Okay.
We have.
So in addition to the Bank of America purchasing card, which is used very sparingly, there's a lot of control over that. That's essentially used for travel mostly. And then for certain instances where a vendor absolutely doesn't take our purchase orders. But I know there are also credit cards. We've got Walmart, Tractor Supply, I think Home Depot, Lowe's. So those are the expenses where the departments will come into purchasing. They have to sign out the card. They go and make their purchase and they bring back the receipts to purchasing and the card gets signed back in. But as far as what they're purchasing and how much.
Number 2, request approval of healthcare assistance claims and disposition claims for September 2023. Number 3, request approval of July 27th, 2023 special meeting minutes. Number 4, request approval of August 10th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Number 5, request approval of resolution number 9-7-23/112-11 for the disposition of personal property and fixed assets in accordance with the state statute through govdeals.com, an online auction service. Number 6, request approval of resolution number 9-7-23/112-13 budget adjustments carried forward from fiscal year 2023 to 2024. Number 7, request approval to award ITB 24-004 Riata Road Bridge South of Pecos project contract to Rock Canyon Construction LLC in the amount of $2,485,241.10. Number 8, request approval to award ITB 24-005 Sidney Paul Gordon Shooting Range renovation to R.D. Blankenship Dirt Work LLC in the amount of $88,550. Number 9, request approval of a memorandum of understanding between Otero County, City of Alamogordo, Village of Ruidoso, 12th Judicial District Attorney in Lincoln County for implementation and operation of the White Sands Drug Task Force. Number 10, request approval to reclassify the communication officer position to a National Crime Information Center assistant. Number 11, request approval of a letter of intent to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for planning assistance to the state's PAS program. Number 12, request approval to submit a grant application with the New Mexico Regional Recreation Center's Quality of Life for the purchase and installation of a new playground at the Weed Community Center. Make the motion to approve all of these, 1 through 12.
I forgot to recuse myself from this one.
Okay, so we will vote on, Gerald and I will vote on number 5 by itself. Amy's going to recuse herself from that one. Just for the disposition of personal property. Okay. So I make a motion that we approve number 5. Get a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we'll do 1 through 4 and 6 through 12. I make a motion to approve consent agenda items number 1 through 4 and 6 through 12.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right. So scheduled citizen communication, Heidi Fowler, Cisa Connor, and J.B. Hines with the United States Environmental Protection Agency.
And we also have Representative Willie Madrid, who will be joining him for the presentation.
Good morning. Nice to see you all again.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having us. So let me just take a minute to introduce the team. I'm Heidi Fowler with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency out of the Office of Wastewater Management in Washington, D.C.
I'm Teresa Connor. I'm with ERG Consulting, a contractor with EPA, working on the Closing America's Wastewater Gap Initiative.
Hi, great to see you again. Julie Beth Hines, I go by JB. I'm with the other three-letter agency, MDB, which is a contractor to EPA. Great to be back with you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm glad to be back. Willie Madrid, State Representative, District 53, incumbents, Otero County, and Doniana. Morning.
Morning.
we could have the PowerPoint up on the screen that we sent, that'll help the audience. Great, thank you. So we're going to tag team a little bit here through the presentation. We sent these materials ahead and thought we would just spend some time walking through them. So again, this is a joint effort between two federal agencies, the US EPA and the USDA Rural Development. And the effort again, is entitled the Closing America's Wastewater Access Gap Community Pilot Initiative. And Chaparral, the community of Chaparral, was selected throughout the country from a number of communities that were identified. I'll go into a little more of that. Next slide, please. So what we thought we would do today, we've had the opportunity to speak with a couple members of the commission since we were last here. So what we thought we would do today is just kind of bring everyone up to speed on where we are in this effort and conversations that we've been having. So we've categorized this as the Chaparral project update, but I'll just clarify by saying that what we're going to walk through today really applies to all of the county. For Otero County, we have been also working with Donna Ana County for their portion of Chaparral. And we've had some meetings and discussions with them as well. What we did develop through our conversations was what we're referring to as a roadmap for wastewater management in Otero County, better understanding kind of what services we could provide by technical assistance, better understanding your situation and your future vision for Chaparral. We've put together kind of an outline of a roadmap of addressing wastewater management needs for the county, looking ahead into the future. So we'll go through kind of the more details of that and certainly invite you to ask questions as we go through it. And then we'll talk a little bit about moving forward with the effort and the initiative. Next slide, please. Just some photos here of the team. We don't have everyone with us, but we have members from EPA, USDA. Carl Pennock from RCAC was here with us the last time. All of these pilot communities were utilizing local technical assistance providers who are, familiar with working in the location and the region. So Carl's been one of our contacts here locally. And then you've met Teresa and JB, and then we have some other contract staff. Next slide, please. So I thought it might be useful to, again, just take a kind of step back to talk about why we're here and why wastewater management. The pilot initiative really came out of the arrival of the bipartisan infrastructure law funding. And so that is just a watershed moment for infrastructure, particularly for wastewater. It is just like with building roads and bridges, it's one of the areas across all of America that we recognize has been an underinvestment, and wastewater management is a key component for any community. Just with bridges and electricity, it's the foundation for growth and economic development. And so by virtue of having all this funding available, our two agencies came together and assigned a large group of us to really work and look across the country to identify communities that met several different criteria that we'll talk about. And Chaparral was identified as one of them, being that it's a fast-growing community. It's an area where there are various wastewater designs being used. With the growth is also the need for wastewater management, and that also goes along with the mandates and the requirements of our agency of just wastewater management also does a lot of things. It protects your home value, it protects human health, it protects your drinking water sources. And so that is also a large part of how and why the funds were structured to focus on those areas. It's also a small rural area, and frequently we know that we've seen that wastewater service frequently goes hand in hand with growth and development, and that without the wastewater management and service, you can't necessarily have the growth and development that a community may want or desire, depending on what your growth needs and wants are for the community. So part of this effort and why we're here is bringing that expertise from an engineering, from a utility, from a federal funding standpoint. And the other component of this that's really critical is helping communities to identify and apply for and receive the funding that's available. It's no great surprise, this area is very similar to the other communities that we have, that there's a lot of grant money, there's a lot of federal funding available. People don't know how to apply for it, they don't know what it applies to, and that is something that we're really trying to proactively work with at a local level. And that's really something that our agencies haven't done before. And it's really made possible through having the bipartisan infrastructure law funding. It's such a large sum of money that we want to make sure that it gets into the hands of the communities who need it most. So that's really, my assignment in all of this. So that'll be part of what we'll get into as well. Next slide, please. So this is just to give you a broader sense of the pilot project initiative. Out of the country, we started with over, 500 communities, and then it was selectively narrowed down through a process across the federal agencies. I've got listed here the 11 communities that are part of the pilot that are all going through this initiative together. One in Arizona, we have Chaparral, and then Santo Domingo Pueblo in New Mexico. And then we're also in Mississippi, 2 communities in Alabama, Kentucky, West Virginia, and North Carolina. So the process that we're going through across all the communities is really threefold. The first part is in developing a community wastewater assessment. And what that provides is really an overall documentation of the location, of the topography, of the soil types and characteristics to really understand what types of wastewater are most useful, most appropriate for the area. And really including along with that, just other information on local resources that can be part of that assessment. So we've completed that. We've done that holistically for Chaparral, for the Dona Ana, and for the Otero County components. So that document has been shared and is available for your review and comment. The second part is really developing a community solutions plan. And that is to really outline what are some options for wastewater management for the community to consider. So obviously, the shape and form of that is very different if you are in Whitehall, Alabama, or if you are in West Virginia or in North Carolina. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's why we have the team of experts that we have that are specific to each of the 11 communities. And what we've attempted to do, and we'll talk about the roadmap that we developed, was we tried to put together our expertise, utilize the information that we could gather about your location, have conversations with you to better understand kind of what are the future vision, the future plans for your county and for Chaparral, as well as taking into consideration Dona Ana and what they have planned, and then to provide you with some outline of options. It's a roadmap from the standpoint of it's yours to pick up and choose to travel down or to deviate as you see fit. It's not, a prescribed approach that you have to take. And what we have also attempted to include in it are the aspects that can be utilized not just for Chaparral, but throughout the county. So that's really the intent. And then the third part is really kind of getting a little bit to more where we are now, which is getting feedback from Otero County, from Donna Ana County, as to, you know, how what we've outlined meets what you have envisioned, or what you want to plan, and then to continue to work with you from our vantage point, lining you up for better cooperation with the local technical assistance providers, because what we've done at every step of the roadmap is, as we've sketched out a plan for you to look at and to consider, is to say, this is where you could obtain funding. These are the pockets from which you could look to apply for and to get funding for these different phases. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and get into the details of those potential pools of funding as well. So let's see, and then next slide, please. Again, just to visit where we are in the timeline. Starting over in the left, back in November of 2022, the team came out for a kickoff. At that time, we were just talking really with Donna Ana County, and they recommended that given the vision, given the clear, interest that Otero County has as their portion of Chaparral, that it only made sense to outreach and talk with you, which made complete sense to us. And so early in the new year, we started some discussions with Otero County. Again, we developed the assessment. We've been going through the process of really developing funding strategies and working that out.
Excuse me.
And we're getting close towards developing what we consider the second document, which is the solutions plan. And so again, that would be something that we would hand off to you, but still able to work hand in hand with you if you have questions, and to say, how do I apply for this, or who are the appropriate contacts for that we would still be available for you to reach out to. So that's kind of where we are in the timeline. And I'm going to pass it to one of my team members here, and we'll go through the next part.
So good morning again. One of the pieces we've put together in response to our conversations with you in April, and then further conversations with your wonderful team, and Dona Ana, is what we're calling, again, as Heidi noted, a roadmap, which it's always a long and winding journey. Wastewater management for communities is extremely different. There's a big range of options. So we want to talk about a couple of approaches. First, for on-site wastewater or septic systems, and then for looking at sewering options, which Teresa will cover. So if we could have the next slide, please. Nationally, since really the mid-1990s, and it's before I had a whole lot of kids who are now, getting married and out of college and all of that, EPA started promoting the idea that wastewater management is really a continuum. It's not septic systems and you're on your own up to sewering, but it's making sure that every property, every structure that we inhabit, that we've got some properly functioning, properly maintained wastewater, whether that's a basic septic system, or it's a cluster system serving a few homes, or it's a septic tank effluent type of system, or it's a big conventional central sewer like you would have in downtown Los Cruces or Alamogordo. So when we look at what's effective wastewater management, it's making sure that all properties are served by safe and effective wastewater treatment of some kind that's suitable there. It's making sure also that all on-site systems get some proper periodic maintenance, because while they can be a durable long-term solution, very cost-effective, very environmentally effective, they do have to have some maintenance because, like even a Toyota truck will eventually need an oil change. Same goes with septic systems. And the other piece of effective wastewater management is making sure that disposing of sanitary wastewater is not a limit on your business and community development goals. And there are ways to meet those goals with on-site systems, with sewer systems, but it's making sure that you've got the resources for whatever land use setting to make sure that sewer's not the thing holding you back from business growth, from what people want to do. So what we've got here, we have a lot of mapping that ERG has put together showing where we have on-site wastewater systems. The yellow, the sort of golden triangles or diamonds here are systems that are in the New Mexico Environment Department database that we know have received a liquid waste disposal permit since roughly 2000. So could be anywhere from 0 to 23 years old, roughly, if you see them up there. Outside the sewer areas within Doña Ana County, what that means is we've got, wherever you've got an occupied structure, we don't necessarily know the age or condition of the on-site system. And we'll show a little bit more about what that sort of universe looks like. You've got, of course, in Otero County, where there's been a lot of new housing growth, newer on-site permitted systems, generally on a 3/4 acre lot or above in that segment of the county. So one of the first steps to effective management is just knowing where are the systems. And that can be, that we've got a good running start on that, but there's a universe of properties that were probably, the system is at least 23 years old and not really documented, at least electronically. So if we could have the next slide, please. So given that the Otero County portion of Chaparral right now, and a lot of your county, I think your estimate was 34,000 people, about half of the county's population is served by some kind of on-site system. Why work on this? Why make that part of your county's suite of services? Your soils and development patterns generally are very favorable for long-term use of on-site septic systems. But again, they've always got to be maintained, at least at some periodic level. You've got an example with the correctional facility in Chaparral of an on-site system supporting a major use. That can be, when those are properly sited and maintained, that can be another good model for supporting development. But what we see in communities around the country that step up and provide some level of inventory, education and outreach, some support for septic system maintenance, is being proactive about that really supports better property values, public health, and it's a good community development resource, knowing how to deal with septic so that it doesn't, again, hold back uses that want to come to areas that don't have sewer. We also have financial resources to support on-site system management, and as Heidi said, often those have been underutilized. People don't know that they're eligible to get, for example, Clean Water State Revolving Fund money to work with on-site systems, so we really want to highlight that as well. Could I have the next slide, please? So the roadmap document that we sent you all has a couple of different options to think about. The first that I'll quickly go over is establishing some level of on-site wastewater management support here at the county. And that's, again, basically to support the long-term viability and function of those systems to support property values and community desired growth in businesses. Teresa will talk a little bit about sewering options, where we actually go in and create sewers to take that wastewater off-site, which does support more dense development and some business growth. Longer term, a much more complex for Chaparral would be to establish sewer service in that portion of the county. And that would be, again, that would be a longer term, as we talked yesterday, Gerald, more expensive, more, larger investment, but definitely an option at least to start thinking about if, when, and as that became a valuable option for the county. So I'll talk, if we could go to the next slide, please. What does it mean to sort of manage on-site systems? We really think about this, again, as a continuum. In EPA, we put together in the early 2000s, back when more telephones had cords, what we called the management levels, where ranging from communities that actually own and maintain septic systems on behalf of property owners, that's a level 5. We don't see that too often, but we have seen communities start to do what we call level 1 or 2, which is basically to inventory your systems. Again, what is the wastewater system serving the occupied structures, whether just in Chaparral or throughout the county? Building staff knowledge of on-site system maintenance, who your local contractors are, what happens when things go wrong, who to call, how to protect your system, so building staff knowledge, and then really taking that knowledge out into the community, whether actively through things like sending an insert with a water bill or having material available when people come to pay tax or vote. And then developing relationships with the folks in your community and those businesses that install, design, maintain, and pump septic systems. And having, as a first line, sort of a list. It doesn't need to imply any county endorsement or selection, but just if somebody calls the county, if you get, as a commissioner, someone having trouble with their septic system, you've got resources. You can say, okay, we'll talk to Sylvia, and Sylvia's got a list of the folks you can call, and here's what you would do. So that instead of it being they're on their own, you've got a ready line, you've got a pathway for people when those calls come in about, I don't know what to do with my system, or it's a bad smell from code enforcement and it turns out to be septic related. So you'd build that knowledge base and information. When you have an inventory of the systems, some communities will do a more proactive approach and they'll send, for example, a postcard when system maintenance might be due based on the age of the system or when the permit was issued. And you can get more proactive from there depending on what's valuable to your constituents. But having that knowledge, getting the inventory, what type of system is where, how old is it, and then who are our resources, who are our pumpers, installers, haulers, having someone at the county who's got that information together, we really see communities find that to provide a great level of service for not much investment. Getting that inventory together, developing educational materials, thinking about, do we go out to the community with information? If you wanted to get contracted support for that, we usually see that take about a year, cost about $50,000, and there's lots of grant funding available for that. Again, that Heidi, as Heidi noted, has been really underutilized. So that's one we'd like to give you some resources on the benefits of starting that, at least get you connected to the funding if you wanted to take advantage of that, and really think about how could we build that capacity within the county. Tons of great resources from EPA that can be customized, and we're really happy to help get that started. So next slide. I'm going to turn this over to Teresa to talk about sewers.
Thanks, JB. So in really discussing sewers and where do sewers make sense for the community, and a septic system, once it reaches its useful life, even if it is maintained, it can fail. That can be $10,000 to $12,000 to replace for a homeowner. And if you have to finance that or anything else, that can be $100 a month bill to pay off. And so there are times where either an area is getting greater density, there is economic growth, you may want to support some commercial, or you have aging systems. It may make sense to provide sewers. So when we look at that and we look at Chaparral, and Doña Ana has the Chaparral wastewater treatment plant on McCombs Avenue. It does have capacity to serve that area. And so we first look at this kind of orange hatched area that's right next to the county line. That was an area identified in the early 2000s in a planning study done for the Doña Ana system that could be served by the Chaparral plant. There's about 1,000 parcels, or just over 1,000 parcels in that area. The green dots represent the the permitted septic systems that are in that New Mexico Environmental Department database. Like when they started keeping track electronically of their permits, that's what we see. There's about 55 of them. So that would tell us that most of those parcels have an older system, maybe aging. We don't know the maintenance. It could be, we also see some smaller lots in there. It may be time to think about sewer systems. It's not a given, but it just may be time to think about providing sewer for that area. And so, as we look at this, and one of the options for Otero County to consider with the grant funding that is available, all the funding that is available through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Fund, would you want to consider looking at a collection system in Otero County and potentially sending the wastewater to Doña Ana's plant for treatment? It would take an agreement with Doña Ana to do that. We'll get into the affordability of why that may make sense to get started, but it's just kind of low-hanging fruit to start to address some of the needs in that area if wastewater management is becoming very restrictive to that area. As we go to the next slide, the way to do that, the steps involved, there's really two paths that you would need that could be followed. And one is doing the engineering feasibility assessment. There is funding to do these preliminary engineering reports, either through USDA or through the Clean Water SRF program at New Mexico Environment Department. And that would get you kind of into where would sewer be provided? What are the costs of that? How could we phase it? What's the amount of flow we would expect based on the number of parcels? And I will say, having been there, although we identified that area right next to the county line, and there are a number of newer septic systems to the east that, probably don't need sewer, but it would be technically feasible to also serve that area along Highway 54 with sewer and go to the Doña Ana system. If that would be helpful in meeting the community goals for economic development or commercial development down there. There's nothing, it could be pumped. I think that initial line was drawn because that's where Otero County the population kind of stopped at the time that study was done. So know that if you wanted to look at that Highway 54 corridor, it's possible. That area in between in the east where there's all the new systems, it's probably not, you probably don't need sewers there yet right now. I'm just guessing, I'm not guessing, it's an educated statement, but but you can go further east than what's been identified if it would help the community meet its goals. So in that engineering feasibility study, you would develop your initial costs. Also potentially a phasing study and looking at how to do this and the environmental documents. To get design and construction funding through either USDA or the Clean Water SRF, you do need that preliminary engineering report and an environmental information document that looks at what are the national permitting requirements for that. Another track would be, if you want to engage with Doña Ana to really kind of take that flow, is to start working with them. Eventually you'd need some type of IGA or interlocal agreement. But oftentimes, like when you're at this stage, you start with a memorandum of understanding. That's a little bit easier, a little bit broader, saying here's where we agree, here's where we need to work through the process, and here's the process we would follow to really look at the needs of the Otero County side of Chaparral. And so that kind of gives you some framework to go through those discussions, and it gives you time to work out the details that could be in an interlocal government agreement, such as the volume and strength of flow that would go to the treatment plant, how that would be monitored, how the financial transactions would occur, where the protection for both sides is, and how you would really address some of those details that goes into that type of service agreement. Also, you'll want to look, because this is a bit of a new service for Otero County, what's the governance and financing frameworks for the county? How do you do billing? Oftentimes, there's an agreement with either the water provider, or there's others. There are firms out there that will provide billing services. How does it fit with your current departments, like the roads department, or your procurement and your accounts payable department? What are your any legal needs that you would need to do that? How would you handle connections, that type of thing? And so, just really looking while you're doing that technical thing of how would we manage, the governance and the finance side of that. So there's, in the roadmap, there's some of those kind of high-level details of how you work that out. Utility service is a continuum. There's no one size fits all. We work with utilities that do everything in-house. We work with utilities that are proud to not own a shovel, and so they contract everything out. And so there are a number of options. It really depends on what Otero County sees as needing for the community in providing that type of sewer service to the area. The cost for the initial analysis to get going, depending how much you want to go, it's probably $100,000 to $150,000. There are multiple either grants and or low-cost loan programs funding available for the planning, design, and construction of a sewer system. And so it's really, working with your team to figure out what would be the best funding option there, because you do have multiple paths. Providing sewer service takes time. You're probably looking at a year for the initial analysis, and then up to 2 years for your design and permitting process. And then, depending how big of a system you construct, 2 to 4 years for construction. So even if you got started today, you're probably not looking at connecting anyone until about 5 years. And so that is just, it takes time to develop these services, and there's a lot of community engagement that happens in the meantime. But if you think the time is right to start considering it, you can start down the path of just doing the engineering feasibility to kind of understand, doing your homework to understand what would it mean to provide sewer service in Chaparral for that community. And if we go to the next slide, why? What are the benefits of providing sewer service? As we've kind of mentioned, it can be density, where it makes sense to have higher density or you have a growing area, you have an area that's, starting to get more dense. Sewer service can support that a bit easier than on-site systems. Also, where you have some commercial development needs and you want to support commercial systems, it may be easier to attract that commercial entity with a sewer system than some of the on-site systems. And there's just kind of a cost balance there. There's an economy of scale in everything related to utilities. So it's just, where do you fall in that economy of scale? Everybody asks, what's the cost going to be? Once again, it's a range. And it really kind of depends on the service provided. In the pilots that we're doing, we've seen costs range from $30 a month, which may not quite be getting the long-term needs of that system, up to $75, which we realize is really a burden for these communities that don't have the economic means for that. And so affordability is really kind of driven by minimizing your capital debt, so taking advantage of grants and the low-interest loans as much as possible, but especially the grants that are available for some of the areas like Chaparral. And also economies of scale. In your operating costs, 2/3 of those costs can be staff-driven. So where you can work across economies of scale and get, like working with Chaparral, where they have operators in place so that you don't have to hire your own operators until you have a big enough system to support it, can really help with affordability of the service and make it competitive. And once again, if you have a septic system that now needs replacement, you are probably looking at a $10,000 to $12,000 cost for that property. And if you had to finance that, that is $100 a month. That is hard on homeowners. That's a financial burden. So where we can get effective service to some of these communities with a sewer system, it can be a bit more cost effective. And so with that, we'll go to the next slide. And we're really kind of looking for feedback from you all of what makes sense for Otero County. Either the on-site system really can be applied across the county where you have on-site systems. The sewer service, we've really focused on Chaparral. And really looking for feedback from you all on what makes sense here.
I have about 8 or 9 little items I'd like to kind of just express on this. I really feel in the future, nothing told me this, but I really feel in the future that septic systems in like Chaparral area, I think are going to be becoming extinct. Just the way the America's going right now. So, and then with saying that, you got to think about Chaparral. That's a very unique city, period, because you have 2 counties in it. It's a half and half city. It is on the Otero side. It is all septic systems. One of the other things you kind of want to think about down there is a lot of these lots in the subdivisions are acre to 2 acre lots. So this is something we talked about yesterday is you have the initial family come in with the septic and then one son moves a mobile home in, they're tying in. So you're really overloading that septic system. So this would kind of, a wastewater system would help in things like that. This is also like the first stages of planning. I think it needs to come around. Like she said, it's going to be a long time deal, but you got to start somewhere. And like you said, it'd probably be like 5 years before you could ever even take the first shovel of dirt out. But one of the other options, and I've talked with them quite a bit on, is trying to start a education program for people who own septic systems. And that's a Otero County-wide issue right there. I really think that we can get with the septic system businesses here in the Otero County area and get a lot of feedback and get a lot of maybe information, maintenance deals, a program to, try to help a lot of people. I know there's a lot of people come into Otero County that they come out of a big city, they've been on a regular sewer system their whole life, they buy a place, they want to be out in the country. Well, they have a septic system, they don't have a clue what's happening there. So trying to start some type of an education program would be a big plus. On the next meetings that we've had several on the almost monthly. This month we've had 3. I would really like for the other 2 commissioners to sit in now that you kind of have a little idea of what's happening, because every one of our districts have septic systems in them. You're thinking about Chaparral again, it's kind of a unique little community. They pay property taxes. Now that they have the cannabis deal, which is taxes coming in, RB brought this up yesterday, it'd be a way that we could kind of give back to them some. They have a plan you know, on the one area on the county line road area, and then I still feel kind of on the north, well, on 54 side, if we could get a system put in, we could probably get some businesses coming in there. Most anybody that you ask, a business won't go in on a septic system deal, and then there's always little issues on other deals, but I think we can make that work. You talked about the management part of it. There'd be 10 different ways to manage that. That's in my eyes is the little part of it. Even if what we did, if it went back to the Donna Ana system, we could work out a program of contracts with them. So there's that part I see is the little part of it. But that's my feel on it. We've been talking about this for over a year now. So it's something that needs to be addressed. It's coming in. We also talked about in our meetings that we're reorganizing the planning and zoning. Just maybe something that needs to be addressed in it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
Well, I feel if we get it started, if we could implement it to where if we started using Donna Ana's water treatment facility, then eventually could we have one of our own? I mean, have it designed where we didn't have to reinvent the wheel if we started our own somewhere down the road? Does that make sense?
Yes. And one of the other big key deals right now is if we could get this started in the planning stage, we have the team right here. We have the financing part of it. We have the design part of it. We have all the brains right here that could help us try to figure out how to implement this. And even we're talking a sewer system in Chaparral, but even if we can get the education part of all septic systems to use throughout Otero County. So I would really like to take advantage of the help we have that they're giving us. So.
I agree with the program, so don't think, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute. First, community feedback. Is the community on board with?
Well, I can tell you down there, you can go talk to them. I had a gentleman tell me, my septic system's been there for 28 years, never had a problem. He's probably working on this much of his tank. The rest of it is sludge, and he's been very fortunate.
Yep.
Now, how many are like that and how many are not? So you're going to have, I've had feedback both ways. Probably the majority of it is, we don't need no stinking sewer system. I have a perfectly working fine. Some of the comment I've got is from the new subdivisions that are there, is I just spent X amount of dollars on putting one in. Okay, your system's fine. This again would be part of the management, training, little education. I'm not sure how many septic businesses are in Donna or Chaparral, but we try to get those involved. So it's to your question like that, you're probably going to have a little bit of fight. You got to remember that a lot of these people that are coming to the meetings that I go to, they're talking to me, or older people that they don't want to change. They want to use the same thing they've been doing that their mom and dad did and their grandparents did. And it could very well be the same system that the grandparents used. But so it's going to be, nobody likes changes, but it's coming. So.
And I know that developing this, we will have more businesses come because the septic system is paying for a business. But with that growth, is Otero County prepared on our side for that kind of growth? And I mean, because we already have problems with not having the services down there, like having their own, being declared their own village, something like that. So what are the, if we get this started, and let's say Chaparral becomes a village in 3 years, I'm assuming they take it over? How does that transfer go? And if they don't turn into a village, then we are going to have more growth that we're going to have to figure out what to do with.
Well, if you look at it as the same as, say in 3 years, they incorporate or they become their own county or whatever they decide they would to become. They're not going to be able to take over everything at one time until they build up their deal. Number one, the roads. We take care of the roads and stuff down there. So this would be another deal that they would have to, it would come in, the county would still be involved until they get to the point to where they could take it over. They have to take over their roads. They're going to have to take over their police. They're going to have to take over the fire department, their emergency services. So there's a lot. It's not just this. It's everything the county provides them. They're going to have to transition that. The same as the city of Alamogordo. So it's not an overnight deal if that transition ever happens, but they're going to have to grow. In a couple more years, they will be bigger than Alamogordo. They're already, I mean, right on the back of their heels. So something has got to happen. So this is a deal that's going to come, that little community, if you get the proper water for the businesses, the sewage for the businesses, they're going to come over there and they're going to set up. So yeah, the county would have to, but it would be no different than any of the other services that we're providing down there now anyway. Back to the management part of this, depending on where it is, this could be nothing more than a contract, the same as AMR with the ambulance service that Otero does with Donna Ana. Otero pays Donna Ana however many calls they have, so it would be no more than maybe making up a contract. So there's, like I say, I think there's many ways that we could get around, not get around, but deal with that whenever this situation comes.
So I look at this a couple ways. First, we're going to become wastewater management leaders, or do we have to form its own department? We're going to be doing billing. We're going to be doing all of this stuff. Or we're going to send it to Donna Ana and let them do all the billing, and they'll be billing our Otero County constituents for something, and we're going to say, okay, Donna Ana, go ahead and bill them whatever you want. And we're putting our constituents in that hand.
That would be a design deal. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to form that agreement. And even with billing, there are firms that do billing as well. So there's just a number of ways to address some of those service needs, whether you kept it as Otero County and had contracts to oversee it and had others, or if you worked with Dona Ana and worked with them on some sort of, first of all, as a public utility, you can't make a profit, right? You're recovering the cost of the service. And so really looking at how those rates are set, the feedback on those rates, what gets shown on those rates, all of that is usually a very public process. And so there can be agreements with, whatever entity you do on setting rates and how to make sure, you do keep some level of accountability for your constituents on the fact that utilities just recover the cost of service.
And we have a prime example of that's in effect right there in Chaparral right now. The water system. Okay, you have a private water department. They send their billings out. The people in Donna Ana that are tied into the wastewater deal, they're billed through the, is it Donna Ana or is it a separate, is it Donna Ana? So they would still bill it, it's the same as you paying your water bill. You're gonna get a bill in the mail for the wastewater. It's not gonna be a deal that the county's gonna have to do the billing. If say it's just in that one area where they showed, say, the little orange square along County Line Road, if those people were in, they would get a separate bill from any of the other constituents. So it's not gonna be like a tax increase or any kind of like that. It'd be no different than if you have your broadband bill that's gonna come to you, if you, or your water bill or your propane bill or anything like that. It'll fit right in with the same category as that, the way I see it, but now, that could be wrong. And
We would have to work it out. You know, one option would be that Otero County handles the billing on that side, but that would be an expansion of our services and obligations, so, you know, probably that would not be something we'd want to do, but if we partner with Doniana, we will do a memorandum of understanding or some type of intergovernmental agreement, whatever the appropriate mechanism is, and we would address all of these terms and conditions. Because on one end of the spectrum is we create a public works department, we have billing, and we pay for sewage, but it's really not financially feasible. And on the other end is we do nothing and just let expansion continue unabated, and septic tanks just be the answer. But in the middle is partnering with Doniana and doing something that makes sense based on both of our capabilities that serves that community.
And John, you had a suggestion on that?
You know, sooner or later, one way or another, the water companies will bill for the sewer. And they have approached us, Doniana's approached us, but we just haven't gotten there yet. And, but it's a natural combination, because without that we have control over the people paying the sewer bill. It will happen, that the water companies will bill for the sewer. Sooner or later, one way or another. It's just progress. It's the way it should be done.
It's very common.
That was going to be my next question, is we get this developed, is it allowable for a private citizen to take over, purchase this, and manage it?
The sewer system?
So ownership, so when you take on the grants or loans, there will be agreements there. So ownership is one level. Operations and maintenance is another. And so you can, some of it will depend on your funding agreements for ownership. But operation, it's very common to have contracts with private entities for operations and maintenance of different parts of the system or the whole system. So I just want to separate out ownership, because if you take on the funding agreements, there will be requirements for you on kind of ownership. That may make it difficult for a private person to come in and take that over. But for operations and maintenance, it's very common to have contractual arrangements for that. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
Another, I don't know what number options we're on, but another option is a water and sanitation district to be created. But that is, takes initiative of citizens. They have to get a petition, and I think like 25% of some number, they have to get signatures to that and do the petition. And there's a whole statute that covers water and sanitation districts, and they have members elected to it through the local government elections, like the ones coming up November 7th. And that entity would have the power to tax. That entity would be its own public, quasi-public entity. It wouldn't be part of Doniana, it wouldn't be part of Otero County. They would have the authority to levy a portion of property taxes in order to fund the entity and establish the services related to water and sanitation. And they would also have the capability and authority to do bonds. Like I said, that's something that takes organization at the community level and initiative.
Members, commissioners, I think it's important to really, Commissioner Barrera, I think you're right to ask those questions because it's at some point, it's as much ownership of both sides that have vested into this. So I think it lies really in those MOU agreements, timelines, sunsets, come back and look at it, renegotiate it. There's nothing other than, I think you're getting a strong sense of there's a support, as Commissioner Mallory says, of insight to helping you guys come aboard at whatever level and take it back over with agreements. This is what has to be a collaboration. I don't see it any other way. I think you've heard me before suggest that, you know, because it is a half and half population, almost equal, as a joint venture that has to be done in one way. And Doniana's been stepping up. They're the ones that made the suggestion that we could maybe get to this level to help the ongoing phases of what we have, thus assisting Otero and funding that may not be available right now, but thus giving you, as you suggested, time to set yourself a course of where maybe one day, and I really think it's a consideration that's strong to be considered, is eventually having your own sewer system. You know, the Otero side, I sincerely think you'll get up to potentially 60,000 on just the Otero side. Okay, so this is a perfect time, and I think we're all recognizing that it's a joint venture if we really want to set ourselves up. And I really want to say first and foremost, in listening to my team being all over the state and all over the country, there is not a perfect plan, okay? And we're the pilot. So we're going to have some problems, we're going to have some mistakes, and we're not saying that it doesn't come with the territory, but at least it's not going to fall on the backs of you guys if you want to go start with a joint venture, and then as little as you build up to where you're comfortable and you have your planning and zoning and your utilities developed, you have all the capacity. And I think you guys get the most benefit because of economic development potential, particularly off of that 54. And I think that's still something that what you're doing is hindsighting and farsighting for the people that we all serve in Otero County. And I really love the point of Mr. Malley, which is taking this particular part that I think is most critical, and I'm seeing the difference already in what we did a quarter of a mile at the end of a road of mine, and everybody got connected. But there's differences because we did some town gatherings with those people. We discussed their options, and it became a quickly like, you know what, now. And they had systems that are less than 10 years old, I want to say, and they converted. So you just don't know each household, but I really believe that we have one or two ways. We can take this real slow and unprepared, and it's going to be a wave that could come about us and will really never look right. Or we can take this with the assistance that's offered to us and be joint supported federally at all levels, because I've sat with this team, and you have to be in our meetings coming forward, because I think you'll start to hear there's other funding mechanisms that even we're going to counties that are unaware of that. So that's what they bring, is a ton of new avenues of federal grant funding. It does take some work. I'll give you an example. When we talked to Doniana, and this was a suggestion of others, I think it would really apply well, is that I have the people that are Spanish, bilingual, right? They need bilingual. So if we did the application for trying to see who can get assistance or funding, well, to tell them that, they'd say, okay, but then to tell them you gotta go do all the paperwork, 90% of applications are failed in New Mexico only because they didn't fill it out completely. And there's so many applications that eventually what happens, I don't want to have to do another application, I'm so tired. So the suggestion came up that when we do, somebody wants assistance in funding, we do an autofill on the application for assistance, and it shoots through the system and see what spits back out that they qualify for, instead of them having to repeat the whole process of manually doing it. I think that's a great, what Mr. Mallory said in the very beginning, we have to do stuff to incentivize the people. That's gonna incentivize them to say, I'm gonna have to do one application for assistance of funding, and say, yeah, we'll run it through and we'll see what you qualify and who funds you to get this done. The other reason we had success starting now is that there is some funding that really helps the people get connected from the road to the house.
Yep.
Okay, we didn't have that before. Those are critical things that I think Mr. Mann and me have both experienced, which is the up and down experiences of what they've had to deal with up to this point. And it falls on the back of Doniana that's been very responsive to listening to that, as well as you guys are listening to it. So I think we're at a good roundtable time to continue the discussion. And as you said about the public, we're getting ready to do that. That's why we're at this stage right now. So I really appreciate those questions, and your concerns are very legitimate. You have a vested interest to see when and where down the line, and I think that lies back into the hands of people like RB and Doniana to come up with those understandings. And hey, I'm all for it. Once you guys agree to it, I'll support everything you want. So, and I'm supporting it now, to the process of understanding what one county does versus another county. So it's always what I have to say to myself, a humbling experience, because I have to stay grounded. So, thank you.
I also think logistically, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What I struggle with even just the broadband development plan is who's doing it, who is actually, and we don't have the who is going to make this plan. Who, we don't have the funding to hire somebody to make the plan. So we form a committee, and I know that you guys hold our hands, just like broadband's holding my hand, but the who is still missing. And so that's, how do we address the development of the plan, incorporating it with the subdivision plan, the ordinances, and all in one? How do we fund that?
So there's funding for like the contractors, like how the staff, if you wanted to hire the engineering firm or any type of firm to come in with the technical expertise, there is funding either through USDA and the Clean Water SRF and some of the New Mexico state programs to do that. I think how staff handles it, to incorporate it into the subdivision plan and or work with Doña Ana on what potential conversations could be, and goes that. But we would have to look to your leadership team of how that fits into their staffing plan. But there's definitely funding available to bring in engineers, firms to actually do the technical work.
And there, there's funding to be put together for the design, to have that design to where it comes up. And like she said, she was telling us yesterday, not quoting, but a general number on, say, sewer line for a mile is like $1 million. There's no way Otero County is going to pay for a quarter of a mile. But if there's funding and we can get set up and going in the right direction, and that's why I'm really kind of excited about getting on the wagon right now, because these people have a boatload of money set aside for this wastewater stuff right now. To get set up, get going, we could be some of the first pioneers that get it started. So, I don't want Otero County to get into a deal that it's like a major debt either. But if the funding is there and there's help there to get us going where, it's worth looking into, I think. It's not something that's going to go away. We're only going to get more people. This sounds like a lot on Chaparral, but again, like I was saying about it's kind of a unique community. You take the people now on the mesa and stuff, that septic tank's the only thing they're ever going to be able to have. A lot of places in the mountains, blah, blah, blah. Muscalero, for example, would be a prime candidate also for this. But I don't know how good we're doing our ground system and stuff in our community and health issues if you have one piece of property and there's the oldest son moves out and then next son moves out and then they have a family that comes in and now you're 3 or 4 families on one system. That's not good either. So it's a health, safety, so.
Commissioner Burrell, to answer your question, or give an answer to it, the Planning Commission is currently working on revising our subdivision ordinance, and we're meeting every couple weeks to have work sessions, just like we are with the animal ordinance. And yesterday, our meeting with these folks kind of highlighted this consideration for future decisions in terms of especially large subdivisions, and that we need to be looking forward when we make these decisions. So we will work on incorporating that, and that will be part of what we present when the revised ordinance is ready. In the short term, I think the education piece on septic tanks is something that's very feasible, and if the commission's open to it, I'd like to put together something for the commission to approve next month that will be a plan to get these resources and information on our website, and then at a minimum, one option's to print up a bunch of pamphlets, and we have the election coming up in November. We could have those available for people to pick up when they go to vote. And another option would be to mail them out. So we'll work on having the cost for you to consider next month. And then the next step would be speaking with Doñana County, and we have a point of contact there that's been part of our discussions and meetings. I will reach out to him and get something to present to you on a way forward with Doñana to start the discussion of what type of this partnership would look like and what it could entail, and just get the ball moving on that. I think those are, it's an elephant, you got to eat it one bite at a time. I think those are some easy pieces to bite off and at least get something going.
That's all I have. I really want to go to a community meeting. I want to hear from the people. So just, if you could include me in on that.
Okay. I just wanted to add that, all of this is iterative, and, you have questions now, you're going to have more questions. It's to be expected. And to just kind of to help you think about planning through this, and I'll let the team weigh in too, that in terms of where we are now, that, time is of the essence. There is a lot of money there, but it's getting used, and it's going to run out in about 2 years. So where we can help you now is that if you begin to have these conversations with Doñana, they've been, to us, and in our joint conversations, a very willing partner. And so if that starts, we can help point you in the direction to apply for funding, to begin the initial engineering designs. That could also take into consideration a lot of your other questions and a lot of your vision around development and what your thoughts are. And once it's kind of a small nuance, but it was in the slides that you have to start with those. There are a couple requirements of engineering design studies that you need to have before you can apply for the big grants for funding. And so if we can help you apply for these initial grants to do the engineering design studies, you'll have those. And at that juncture, you'll have a better understanding of really kind of based on what we've seen from what's been done historically to what you have in terms of a vision of what you really want to design. And that's what you can really share with the community. Right now, this is conceptual. We can say, here are some ideas, But really, until you have some of those engineering plans and designs in place and begin to use that as fodder for, okay, this is where we'd really like to see growth and development, then you really have an idea of kind of where you're going. Sure. Yeah, just, so there's that aspect of it that I want to make sure that we kind of help and support you to get going on so that we can move forward with some of the grant applications that we know are available now.
The other grant that's available is there is support of $50,000-ish to work on the on-site systems system inventory education outreach plan, building capacity in your staff to know, working with the haulers and pumpers. So that would be one where we could also, on a parallel track, independently work to get you funding to support that effort. So it's not just all out of your staff and in-kind time. I will say, all of us who are working on these pilots nationally have interesting scars from different community wastewater initiatives. There's always resistance to change, to connecting to sewer. If you don't, as Heidi noted, getting that preliminary engineering report done, then you can have an informed conversation with your community. You'll have a better idea on cost, treatment options, hopefully have had some discussions with Doña Ana. And the less it's speculative and, well, we could go all of these different directions, and the less you have, you've got to have something defined to have an effective conversation. When it's just hypotheticals, it can almost set you back because it's too hypothetical to even really understand. So we'd really encourage getting that preliminary engineering work done, especially right now when there's so much grant funding to get that information.
So is that something that we vote on today to have Pueblo start looking at the application for the engineering development grant? And then after we get the grant, then?
It's not something that you can vote on because we don't have a agenda item for actional, but Pablo's listening and I'll talk to him. And it sounds like that would be something we'd be interested in. And we've already, we're getting him in the loop with our future meetings with them. But it sounds like the engineering design study can encompass a lot. So I think we just fire that round and get it out there. And then we have, I guess, an exhaustive list of options and designs that we can choose from. So yeah, I'll make sure Pablo heard.
Okay.
And to pick up also on what JB was saying with regard to the on-site management program aspect of it, there's, you're not alone in this, that there are lots of on-site systems. Homeowners, for the most part, across the country don't know a lot about how to maintain them. And, what we're trying to help be preventive of is that, it's one thing for somebody to resist a $30 sewer fee. It's another thing to have a failed septic system and to have to shell out $12,000. So, part of what we're trying to help and to provide is just education. In the same way that you have a schedule to maintain your car, there's, a less detailed but general schedule for on-site systems. And so just providing that education to homeowners. We have a lot of existing pamphlets, brochures, designs that we can pull from. We offered to Commissioner Matherly and others that we're happy to share what we have for examples to see what you like. And then we're happy to work, with our internal team to redesign some things if it would better meet your goals. And, potentially to have that ready and available if that's something that you wanted to pass out in November at your elections. So that would be pretty simple to turn around and to provide. And same thing with the phone numbers. I mean, And we get so many phone calls, even at a state level, where people say, I'm on Social Security, my husband's on disability, our septic system just failed, I'm calling you in Washington DC, what do I do? And because people don't know, do I call the health department? Do I call the 911? Do I call the environment department? And so when you know that you have so many constituents that are served by on-site systems, having the resources and the information available to them to direct them in the right way is a huge resource for them. And that's something that, is a pretty simple lift that, we're happy to support you on.
And I don't think people realize how much it costs to have your septic pumped either. I just had ours done last year, and I think it was about $800.
Right.
I live in the mountains, so I don't know if there's more up there, but
Right.
that's about what I paid. So.
Yeah. And again, depending on what level of service you want to provide in the community, there are models where perhaps, you have a septic pumper that's on contract with the county. And when somebody calls, that service can be, identified and provided through them. You bill them, et cetera. There are, of course, cases where it's a public health issue. So it's something to also consider, that when you have a large population that's served, that potentially having a contractor on service, if that's something that would be useful, that you'd want to take on, could be a benefit. My septic system is 20 years old, and where I live, it's limestone, and, it'll be $50,000 to have to replace that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'd rather spend $300 every 2 years and have it pumped out and have it maintained than, that's just not a bill I can afford.
And part of the education too is people coming in. I'm going to go back to Chaparral again. There's a lot of overflow out of El Paso, people coming in, that people have lived on a sewer wastewater deal their whole life. And they think they can just throw anything you want down that sewer and it just goes away. That doesn't work in a septic system. So it's back to the education part, trying to train or educate some of the people coming in so they, so it's, all we're trying to do is mainly, I see it in a good way, trying to help the constituents on just education.
So we're happy to continue to engage with you, to have a partner across county lines, and Donna Anna that's willing and able to work with you. And, again, in terms of long-term options, you could, as you go into engineering and design, look at long-term the potential to also build an additional treatment system. We do know that will be much more expensive than connecting to Donna Anna. So that was kind of the reason that we have this listed as the medium-term option. But it doesn't exclude you from pursuing another option and, looking into costing that out.
Anything else? No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Representative.
Paula?
Thank you. A little woozy here.
I'm Paula Merrill from Sacramento Mountain Senior Services, and I was needing them to vote on this, but
Right, and since you had requested a citizen scheduled communication, they wouldn't have been able to vote on it anyway. So if you want to request that, we can put you for October.
I thought we requested to be on the agenda.
It was approved. Well, it was acknowledged, yes, but when scheduled citizen communication form is exactly that. You're requesting to speak.
Oh, we just had the wrong form.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
So
And
here's a
ma'am-
preview
ma'am.
of what's coming.
Real quick,
Okay?
ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, ma'am,
Sorry about that.
ma'am, after you tell the commissioners what you'd like to tell them, I'd like to take you to go see our grant writer. And
That's
you
what I-
can, that's what you need, really.
I need permission, and I need to talk to the grant writer.
Okay, well, they can't give you permission today, but
Okay.
the grant writer is what you need right now. He'll get you going.
Thank you.
So,
We want to apply for a grant. It's called the Community Food Project Competitive Grant. It's through USDA and the National Institute of Food. And what I want to do is to involve the county grant writer so that the county knows what we're trying to do and what we're trying to encompass, so that when you do your ICIP for the county, we will be included, we will be mentioned, at least mentioned, that's all we need. Because if the foundations and the other programs don't see us listed as on your ICIP, then they overlook us. And so that's why I want to use the county grant writer, so that the county grant writer knows what we have to include us on your ICIP, because we have a separate ICIP, but because you're our fiscal agent, we have to be included on yours.
Okay.
You understand what I'm trying to say? But he answered my question, and I heard all of this for waiting for the grant writer. Thank y'all so much. Y'all have always been a great help.
Thank you.
Better turn the other way. That's not going to work with that arm, is it?
Do you need help, Paula?
Well,
Oh, ready?
one arm is not good at all, and especially if you're left-handed.
I want to take about a 5-minute break. Is that okay? go? All right. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. Number 15, request to advertise and schedule a public hearing to discuss ordinance 23-03 to establish a Keep Otero County Beautiful Advisory Board.
All right, Commissioners, this is in response to the discussion we had at the last monthly meeting and the concerns that citizens raised about trash and litter across the county. I have an ordinance from Bernalillo County that they established their Keep Bernalillo County Beautiful program. So we'll just model it after that, and it will, and then it will be, the people that have these concerns will be able to do something about it, and be able to find all the resources that are out there and utilize them, and initiate volunteer efforts and education efforts to help mitigate and deal with this issue. But it's not something that that we need to have a separate meeting for. It can just the public hearing can be at the next monthly meeting, and I need that time to write the ordinance. So.
Okay. All right, so we just need to vote on having the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. You guys have any questions?
No questions.
Just one little quick one. So that to have this public meeting to try to form, we would take outside, it wouldn't just be all county people, we'd take people from, it was like Rod Eaton that said that, he joined in or whatever, but it would be people that would want to come in and.
It would be pretty much the same as the Grazing Advisory Board or the Planning Commission. It would be citizens from the county that there'll be eligibility requirements and procedures set out in the ordinance, and then people that want to be a part of it can apply, or they can be appointed by a commissioner. And then from there, they'll have the ability and capability to set up committees and to address different aspects of the problem.
All right. Anything? Nope. No? Okay. All right, I make a motion to schedule a public hearing to discuss ordinance 23-03 to establish a Keep Otero County Beautiful Advisory Board.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty.
You can just mention the date, because you said at the next meeting, so we should be good. So it'll be on October 12th.
Okay.
Which is our next meeting.
Okay, good.
All right. Number 16, discuss and consider agenda items to submit to the City of Alamogordo for the upcoming joint meeting. And we had decided that the city and the county could come up with 3 agenda items that we thought we could discuss together, and my main ones are flooding and cleaning up Alamogordo and Otero County. If we could make some joint efforts on that. So did you have any?
Well, I had already submitted based on what we decided here and the city conversations with those commissioners, and I think it was a total of 6 items. I printed that email and I forgot it.
Okay.
But flooding, I added because that's what your request was. And we had animal control, we had, I'm trying to remember the 6 items.
And who did you submit that to?
I did a
Stephanie?
generic agenda with everybody. You should have got it too.
Okay.
With all those 6
'Cause I don't remember
items.
seeing those.
Do you have that handy, Sylvia?
I do, let me.
Perfect.
Let's see who gets it first.
Me.
It was flooding, animal control, the senior center. That's what the city wanted, was the senior center.
The trash and the animal control and everything is a big deal. The trash with the city, one of my main big deals is to make sure that whatever the county and the city can do to keep or improve the law enforcement part. That's one of my big ones right there. That was only one, because you already mentioned all the other ones. It's just a good community togetherness to where everybody is in the same picture. And I think you all already have that in a pretty good program, but I want to make sure anything we can do to help to toward that aspect of your protection and making Alamogordo, Otero County safe, number one. Which would be including the fire, the whole 9 emergency service deal.
Another commissioner mentioned the landfill, some kind of a different agreement with the landfill. I don't understand because they already use, don't we use each other's landfills anyways?
Recently learned that's a whole mess.
Yeah, well-
I looked at the agreements from the early 90s and I don't know.
Mhm.
That's, okay.
And the draft agenda is the one that you're referring to, right?
Yes.
Because you had presentation by representatives, city staff, collaboration, joint funding, we had crime reduction, community safety, homelessness, prevention, and support services, animal control and welfare, flood prevention, mitigation, mental illness support, and outreach, enhancements to public library services, senior center improvements, solid waste management, and sustainability initiatives.
I think we should pick our top 3 and vote on those, because we don't want this meeting to go on for 2 days, you know, so I think we were gonna try to come up with 3.
Mine's animal control.
Animal control?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mine would either be flooding or cleaning up the county and the city and make a joint effort. I think I'd go with that, the cleanup, probably.
Pick one and I'll take the other one.
Okay, so we'll do animal control, flood control, and cleanup.
I really think we have a good program with on the law enforcement. I just want to make sure anything we can do, that part of it will always be. And I think you guys got a good relationship with the city, don't you, Sean?
Yes, sir. There's cooperation between all the agencies.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody, that's the important part of Otero County, all emergency services, so.
Well, then that part of it is the mentally ill and recovery centers too.
Yeah.
Do we separate that or is it included? Because that's my number 2, is some kind of a joint recovery, mental illness facility, something.
I think we're getting a starting point.
Okay.
We don't have to just have one meeting, and we could have another if we need to.
Well, they're gonna submit 3 and we're gonna submit 3, is that accurate? So maybe we should have some backups in case they submit one of the
case
3
we've
that
got
we
better.
already,
So do you want to put some kind of mental health?
Some kind of facilities for either recovery or mental illness, wellness, whatever you want to call it.
I think your homeless is a big
No kidding.
high point
it's all
too.
tied together, it all
It
fits
is.
in, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of the best word. Amber's in here. Amber, what word you got that covers all 3 of those?
That covers the unhoused.
I mean, community
and
wellness,
Yeah.
Yeah.
behavioral health, behavioral health,
I mean,
behavioral health / community wellness issues.
Okay, that sounds good. That can be our backup.
Okay.
Okay. Do we agree on those?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do animal control, flood control, cleanup, and then our backup is mental health facility or community health. Okay?
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, I make a motion that for the joint meeting of the city of Alamogordo and the upcoming meeting with the Otero County Commission, that our agenda items are gonna be animal control, flood control, community cleanup, and our backup is mental health facility or community health.
I'll second.
Aye. Done.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
So my vision of this meeting is that we actually have people come in to discuss how a program can be implemented. Is that something we could move forward to these topics? Like for the community wellness, we would need like Presbyterian to come in to say, this is how we run facilities and this is what we provide to communities. Or animal control, this is what a joint animal control looks like. That Is that this kind of a meeting where they inform us and that way we can all choose?
Well, I have no idea what the city envisions,
Yeah.
but
This is a first.
that could be a lot of things. Once the, so I think, you know, once the agenda's set and you know the issues, we could probably invite people to experts or you know, some person with knowledge to come provide information for the joint council to then discuss. I think that's reasonable. I do, and we'll see. And I'd say under those agenda topics, you might want bullet points for at least the community cleanup. It would be, you know, one would be dilapidated buildings, the other would be litter or trash. Animal control, like one could be joint ventures or opportunities for collaboration, and flood control could just, you know, I don't know what topic. There's a lot that could go under that, but I think we submit this and then we can consider people to invite after that, probably.
Okay.
And see if the city's on board.
Okay. All right, anything else?
No, perfect.
Okay, number 17, discuss and approve options for the Otero County Prison re-roof project budgeted at $1,240,911.
Wendy Robinson, purchasing agent. During the budget preparation, it was approved by y'all for the $1.2 million for the re-roof at the prison. The staff, once we got the quote, newer quotes, we got the PO put in place, other staff members came in and said, why don't we do it this way? Why don't we do it this way since we're trying to find some money? So Trent and Tom and I believe Josh have some ideas. If I can get them to come in.
Trent, he's coming.
Okay, so.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning again.
I was kind of torn on the fact of changing the option that was picked. I originally think that was the best option to do a complete re-roof of that project. But then when departments were asked to try to cut funding to find additional money for other things, the subject came up that we could change to option one, which the main difference between option one is the application, but as far as the warranty, you're talking a 5-year different warranty. You're 15 years on option one, which the current roof, when it was put on, that TPO at that time only carried a 12-year warranty. This building's over 20 years old, so the roof actually outlived the expectancy. So with option one, a 15-year warranty, who knows how long we're gonna get out of it. We're at least gonna guaranteed to get 15 years. None of us know if that facility will even be here in 15 years. So do we wanna save the almost $400,000 to do option one and sacrifice 5 years worth of warranty, or do we want to proceed with the currently approved option number 3?
And I don't have a problem. I kind of agree with you on that, Trent. Couple of questions I have in the money with the sales tax that's going to be involved in that. What does that bring that number up to? Are we still? The other thing is this is what your guardian and them are excluding is sales tax. The other thing is the permit. Why are they excluding the permit? That should be part of their bid.
Right, no, it's on the contractor to pull the permit. They're the ones that have to pull the permit.
Says right here in their classification of exclusions that permits are excluded.
No, we'll have to get with them on that, definitely.
Look on your last page, this page. If that permit on that job will be 200,000 or 300,000.
Yeah, no, that's something we'll definitely have to look into, and it'll be the same, it'll be at less of a cost with option number 1 than it would be option number 2 or
Yes,
3.
but
there
that's
will be
something
that
that
added
should be in
cost in
their bid, is that permit. The contractor always permits it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a much harder thing for a owner to pull a permit. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. I mean, they got the bonds, I understand the plumbing, mechanical, electrical excluded, I understand all the rest of it. I just don't understand. And that's what I was just asking to make sure that the taxes part.
And that might be a typo because this same company has done other projects for us and the permit was included in it.
But before I approve, I want to make sure that that's.
I will verify that.
So we picked 3A, the $1.2 million job,
Right.
and what you want us to pick is the 1B?
Well, if the commission wants to save money, for sure.
And the only difference is 5-year warranty.
Yes.
And that is a cost of, looks like, almost $400,000.
Yes. Which, from what I understand, would help in other areas that are needing
I
additional
like it
funding.
that you're looking for discounts.
I'm always looking for discounts.
And we use the same product that is proposed in option number 1 on the courthouse roof, that Liquitech product, and they do go around, reinforce the edges, reinforce around all the roof penetrations and stuff like that. So it's not just going up there and rolling out a coating on it.
Right.
It's actually a really good application. I was pretty impressed with that product.
But before I vote on any approval on this, I want to know on the permit part. I understand a lot they exclude the taxes, we add the taxes.
Correct.
As long as that's in there, I understand. But the permit, it would be a very significant.
Right.
So is this something we can table for another 30 days until we find out, or is this something that needs to be?
I don't know if you can find out in the next 5 minutes, but.
I can try. I can go try. I can make a phone call.
Because right now, I'm not going to vote, I won't vote on it.
All right. Go make a phone call and find out.
We can come back to you in just a few minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 18. Health Council presentation to go over its mission, action items, healthy equity, and areas of priority.
Good morning still. Commissioners, Amber May Hall, Healthcare Services Director. My colleagues actually did have to leave early, so I do apologize for that. Ms. Kayla Blanchard was going to be here to do a live presentation, but she is still a student in college, so I definitely don't want to get in the way of her education. But to prepare, we do have a video that she prepared for you, so we're going to watch that. It's about 12 minutes long.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kayla Blanchard, the Health Equity Specialist for Otero County Community Health Council. Thank you for this opportunity to present some of our Health Council's work for the community. In this presentation, I will provide an overview of our Health Council, our mission and vision, and then we'll touch on some of our priority areas. Next, I will introduce you to our 3 action teams and showcase the local partnerships that are essential to our community-based work. And to conclude the presentation, I will discuss some of our current projects and why health councils are so important. But before we jump right into who we are as an organization, I want to ground us in the definition of health equity. At times, health equity can appear to be a rather broad concept or even a buzzword, but according to the CDC, health equity is defined as the state in which everyone has a fair and just opportunity to attain their highest level of health. Since even that statement sounds a bit broad, and that's because health equity is going to look different depending on the populations that you are engaging with. So assessing the needs, resources, or even support a particular population needs will require one to tailor their approach. But I want you to take note of that broad statement because it ties into the overall purpose of our Health Council. So here at Otero County Community Health Council, we assess, promote, and enhance the health and well-being of county residents by encouraging and supporting broad-based community involvement. We envision Otero County as a place where everyone has a fair and just opportunity to be as healthy as possible. To achieve that vision, we promote programs, practices, and policies that advance health equity in our county. The Local Behavioral Health Collaborative, or BHC, is an essential partner and serves as a hub for community-wide collaboration in support of behavioral health services. All right, so a little bit more about BHC. We prioritize substance use prevention, suicide prevention, and recovery support. We participate in outreach events and initiatives such as recovery events, overdose prevention training, and QPR training, which aims to reduce suicidal behaviors and save lives by providing innovative, practical, and proven suicide prevention training. Additionally, BHC participates in many advocacy efforts, including improving language around substance use and addiction, and promoting training modules for providers that will assist in their interactions with their patients or clients. Some important partnerships to note are the Mobile Crisis Response Team and CIT First Responders. So here is a snapshot of our membership. It consists of a variety of individuals and professionals like health educators and professionals, behavioral health professionals, community-based organizations, youth-serving organizations, and interested community members, and so many more. All right, now on to our priorities. Our Health Council prioritizes the following areas: health equity, nutritional education, civic health and engagement, improving outcomes for justice-involved families, and reducing substance-related harm. Many of these key areas are accomplished through the work of our 3 action teams. So our action teams, or subcommittees, if you will, are HEAL, CARE, and HEAT. Each one has a different purpose and participates or supports events or initiatives that align with the Health Council's vision and mission. All right, first up is HEAL, which stands for Healthy Eating, Active Living. This action team focuses on nutritional education, access to healthy foods, and increased physical activity. It creates and updates a food and community meals resource list for our residents, as well as promotes physical activity, nutrition, and diabetes education programs. HEAL prioritizes a healthy lifestyle by spearheading initiatives like Prescription Trails, which was designed to give all healthcare professionals the tools to increase walking and wheelchair rolling on suggested routes. Excuse me. So partnering with the city of Alamogordo, he'll develop the Desert Critters Trail, which is a scavenger hunt to get people walking, learning about local nature and spending time together outdoors. And that is actually located at Washington Park. And lastly, they partnered with local restaurants to provide healthy menu options with the Eat Well Otero initiative. So our next action team is Community Awareness, Resiliency, and Engagement, CARE for short. And they are committed to improving the outcomes for children, youth, and families with behavioral health challenges through education, engagement, and outreach. So the promotion of activities that increase awareness around mental health and ending childhood trauma, as well as the Be Kind initiative and supporting Mentor Month, are some of the ways they strive to fulfill their purpose. Lastly, we have HEAT, which is the Health Equity Action Team. It addresses and works towards eliminating health disparities through community organizing. Initiatives and projects include vaccine equity and efficacy, the cancer awareness event, which was held this past March, hosting a bi-monthly health equity discussion, and utilizing virtual outreach to share accurate and effective health information on numerous topics like women of color empowerment and civic health. Now we want to recognize our community partners because they are instrumental in the work that we do. So here are some of the agencies and organizations we work with, but not all. The Counseling Center, 100% Otero, Community Connections, Alamogordo Public Schools, APD's Mobile Crisis Response Team, Otero Juvenile Justice Board, and so many more. We appreciate all the work they do to support us and vice versa. All right, so now moving on to our current projects. Our Health Council has been working with the Department of Health and New Mexico Alliance of Health Councils on a Community Health Improvement Plan, or CHIP for short, to identify and address priority areas of concern. After gathering community input from a survey we administered to various stakeholders, and after holding several work sessions, we identified 3 community health priorities. The first one being mental health, which includes substance use, crisis response, access to care, and suicide prevention. The second priority is transportation, and the third priority is housing/homelessness. So moving on to the crisis intervention team / mobile crisis response team, our Health Council continues to support regional efforts to build crisis intervention teams and provide crisis intervention team training for law enforcement and other first responders, mental health professionals, and other community members. We continue to partner with Lincoln County Community Health Council to advocate for expanded training throughout our region, including our tribal communities. Recently, our mobile crisis response team in Alamogordo expanded to serve all of Otero County. CIT training and the crisis response team has had an overall positive impact on our communities when responding to calls where a community member is in need of wraparound services and further mental assistance. So advocating for CIT training has also had a positive impact on the way our first responders interact with our community members. So the testimonies that we have captured highlight how graduates of CIT training are able to de-escalate situations safely. So this reduces unnecessary criminal justice system involvement and increases connection to appropriate evaluation, treatment, and support system, or services rather. Additionally, our Health Council and BHC has supported 100% Otero's Point in Time, or PIT for short, that count. So the PIT count is a nationwide survey of homelessness on a single specific night as defined by U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department, or HUD. The PIT date is in January each year. 100% Otero has participated in the annual PIT count for the last 3 years and reports back to the New Mexico Coalition to End Homelessness. And we as an organization have supported this through recruiting and training volunteers as interviews. Members have also participated as interviewers getting donations for gift bags, and spreading the word on how to participate and support the pit count. And finally, we support and participate in the Day of Hope event. This was an event where numerous local agencies and organizations gathered to provide tangible services and resources to those struggling with housing insecurity or homelessness. Participating agencies included 100% Otero, Western Sky Community Care, Roadrunner Food Bank, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Mountain View Church, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, Love Inc., Department of Health, and so many more. And the next Day of Hope event will be on November 4th. All right, so now that you know a little bit more about our Health Council, we can talk about why our Health Council is so important. So New Mexico is one of only 8 states that have a centralized statewide health department. So this means they play a crucial role in community-based health assessments, planning, and action at the local level. Now this is important, especially for communities that have significant health disparities due to inequitable resource allocation and inadequate public health policies. Health councils are like the liaison between the community and state and government entities because we listen to, communicate with, and engage with diverse communities. We also review and assess local data and consider the root cause for those disparities. So with that, we help plan community-focused solutions to improve and advance health equity. And lastly, we advise local and state government on policies that would improve our community's health. And finally, if you would like to learn more or get involved in the work that we do, please join us for some of our monthly meetings. Our monthly Health Council meetings meet the first Tuesday of each month via Zoom at 12 o'clock. Our Behavioral Health Collaborative meets the third Tuesday of each month, same Zoom link at 12 o'clock. And then our action teams also meet monthly at different times, as you can see here on the right of the screen. But please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or if you simply want to learn more. Here is my information, and thank you for listening to my presentation.
So thank you. I saw that you took the picture of the meeting times. If you want, I can have Kayla reach out to you to send links and stuff like that to all of those meetings. But if anyone wants to join any of those meetings, to contact Kayla. She'll send you or forward you the meeting invitation with the link to access those meetings. But I stand for questions. If you have any, if there's questions that you have that I can't answer, I will take them to the executive committee.
Can you give me an example of one of our inadequate policies that needs to get worked on?
You want an example of an inadequate policy? You know, it's so much easier to think of one in my office and not in front of the public.
That's okay. You can think of just something for us to work towards.
But I mean, in terms of, I can speak on the ordinance that governs this department, this program. There are a lot of barriers for people to access financial assistance. And, you know, one of the barriers that has been removed, of course, has been we no longer can take into consideration someone's residency status, actually citizenship. So that's one barrier that's been removed recently for this program statutorily. But as far as the amount of documentations that people need when you are elderly, a lot of those documents you lose. But also we do have a very limited program. Right now we only cover primary care and ambulance services and stuff like that. I would love to be able to expand this program to provide more services for people in need. So is it a barrier? I mean, yes, it is, and it's financial and it's policy-based. Yeah. So it's just, but yeah, if you read our ordinance for the healthcare assistance program, there are some barriers. I do want to review that and remove some of them for sure.
Can
but
you
it's,
send that to me?
yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll have
You good? Well, I will see you tomorrow afternoon at 2.
Yes. Just so you guys know what she's talking about, and so the community knows, I have started taking action on the resolution that was passed about the healthcare givers resolution. So I've been meeting with, I've only had one meeting with the Aging and Long-Term Services. We're going to see what we can do to partner and get some stuff rolling. I can't guarantee any programs or financial assistance for people, but we can at least do an assessment. So that's kind of our goal at the moment. So.
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you, Amber.
We'll go back to number 17 now. You guys ready?
Okay, so we contacted Garland. They actually have a contractor that works under them. They are the ones that are responsible for pulling the permit. On the proposal where it says that it's excluded, that is for Garland. The contractor that does the work is the one that's responsible for pulling the permit.
Okay.
And the Garland rep actually is going to send a revised copy, removing that exclusion. So it can't be misstated.
Okay.
And I do believe Eric had some things he would like to say.
You gonna throw a wrench in the whole little thing?
I know.
Well, it's a discussion.
Facilities maintenance. Superintendent. No, I just wanted to revisit, and I think when I initially had brought this to the board, we had discussed that there was, I think, a $50,000 difference between option 2 and option 3. And that's why we decided to go with the higher option. And as Trent had mentioned, the main difference is of course the warranty, but is also the material. Option 3 is basically a material that, it's the same material that was put in the last job that we did down there. So it's actually a mineral instead of the polyurethane roofing. So it should stand up better. It's a better product. It's better for those flat roofs. So my opinion is still to, if we can make it feasible, is to go with that option. And that's a complete tear off and re-roof, so any bad insulation or any of those problems, they're gonna remove all that. Also, just so you know, I believe when we talk about doing these projects and we talk with Garland and these other companies, we always figure in a higher percentage just for contingencies. So I believe there was 30% figured in this bid to cover for those things. So we try to cover our bases wherever we can when it comes to making sure we're not having to come up with more money. So I think everything should be okay. And they did, the last time I spoke with them, they are still gonna honor that price, so.
And we had, at that time, it was a 1.2. What is this coming up with 1.4? It says bid with maximum price with line items.
That's with tax added.
Mhm.
That tax on it?
There's tax on the deal.
How long will this job take?
That's kind of hard to say because we have weather factors, entrance to the facility factors. You remember how long that took?
No, not at the top of my head. And it depends on what option. Option A, coating's gonna be a whole lot quicker than a full tear off and replacement.
You won't have to deal with the wind so much either.
Because we're talking 70,000 square foot of roof.
So that leads me into my next question. It says that interior temporary protection is excluded. So if this is a 6-month job, all the interior is going to be exposed?
No, they'll make sure whatever they tear off, they'll put back before, they'll never leave it exposed.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll only do as much as they can put back in a day.
I just know that everybody, residential wise and stuff, houses they're going back with the coating system. And it's given them several years at a much cheaper rate. Granted, I mean, I wish you could look in the little crystal ball 15 years from now and see we're still going strong. I mean, we can't just let the building fall apart, even if it's empty, but I mean, a whole brand new deal is by far the best way to go. But if you're wanting to try to save some money, cheapness is not always the bestness.
No.
No. That's entirely up to you guys, how you want to proceed.
And it's the same contractor all the way across by Reddit, right? He was low? Or that
Yes.
company was low?
Yes.
Well, if the absolute only difference is 5 years of warranty, not the quality of the work, the materials, anything else, that's the only difference, then I think the $400,000 cut is good.
It's two totally different systems.
Yes,
It is.
it is.
I mean, the
Yeah.
only thing you're sacrificing is the 5-year difference in warranty. The Liquid coating is a good coating. It's even, I think, to the point where if you had a problem area pop up 10 years from now, you could coat over that, you know, to patch it. A full tear off, theoretically, is probably the best option, but for only a 5-year difference in warranty, it's up to you whether or not we want to spend the money.
Because if they do a full tear off, they're going to come back and coat it just like they did on the first phase,
No,
right?
That doesn't have that silver coating on it. This will be just the membrane.
Just the membrane. So why are they doing it different?
That coating has been proven to be not worth it.
Oh. But the coating that you're talking about doing on the $400,000
This is different. It's a liquid tech. It's a poly coating.
Okay.
Well, this is where I lean on your expertise, Gerald.
Excuse me?
This is where I lean on your expertise.
Well,
Quality of the materials, I mean, all of that.
Well, by far your best way to go is complete tear off and redo, by far. Like running a recap tire on a truck. They're good for a while. They may blow out in 1 year, or they may last 5 years. The new coatings they have, they're fantastic. They really do a great job. It's less labor intense and so it costs less. Yeah, you have a 5-year difference. Even a complete tear off and redo all new doesn't guarantee you're not going to have problems in the future. So it's kind of 6 one, half dozen the other. I do know everybody is going to the coding system for their repairs versus completely tearing it off and doing it all over again. So we have it budgeted for the 1.2. I still feel the best option is to all brand new and start over. But when trying to save some money and stuff, that's the next best deal if you want to save some money.
This is your chance. I'm going to go with whatever you say.
I go with the redo, with the whole redo, stick with what we were gonna do.
Yeah. That's what I said. The best option. You're looking out for the best the best bang for your buck.
Okay.
And 5 more years, no telling what some of these products will cost to get fixed. If you're looking at the long haul. So.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna stick with what we got? Do the complete redo?
Okay.
All right.
I will get the PO issued.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to vote on that?
I think we already have, right?
Well,
No, didn't we vote on it already, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, saying this is
Yeah,
the
for
plan we
that.
wanted? Or we have to re-vote on it?
do we need to re-vote on it since we'd already approved that?
I
That
think
amount?
maybe discuss the option that you make a motion with which option you've chosen.
Well, we did. We chose the $1.2 million already,
And the last one?
like 2 months ago, yeah.
Yeah, we're not changing it, so.
So we're not
I
changing
would,
it.
since it is a agenda item to consider options, again, more were presented to you, I would just clarify by saying that you continue to approve that one, or just, yeah.
Okay.
Based on consideration of the new ones, you still approve of
Okay.
the
All right, I make a motion to approve the Otero County Prison re-roof project budgeted at $1,240,911.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All righty. Okay, so moving on. Commissioner Manley?
Well, I know it's only been 3 weeks, but it's been a kind of a busy 3 weeks. Of course, we had our chaparral meeting, and then up till today, there've been 3 meetings with the wastewater, so now it's 4 meetings on the wastewater deal. We all know we went through the Forest Service meeting with the Department Game and Fish, the Fish and Wildlife, NMSU, and the Forest Service, of course. Felt it was a productive meeting. I think they need to be, like we discussed on the monthly deal, I know it's kind of but if you start going quarterly, I think things are going to get forgotten, throw it off to the side. I think we need to get to know the new forester and let him have a chance to come and present. I noticed again today that there was nobody here. I was kind of surprised on that, but anyway, we went up to Weed to look at the dumpster situation and the fire station. I thought we would have a proposal back by now, but have you heard anything from Ralph or Tom or?
What were we waiting on? Was it just because Pamela was going to be here, or?
It was gonna be another design on, another option
Oh, there was
on the.
another option, and we
Yeah.
were waiting on the cost of the other
Yeah,
option. is what
and
it was.
Trent could probably answer that question, but, and then after we looked at that, Commissioner Markwart and I went over to the community center and discussed the issues that they're having up there. Recently, last week, Eric, RB, Pamela, and myself went back to look at some safety issues I had up there with the sidewalks and some of the grounds. I know that y'all are already working on the playground stuff, so we got to look at the slide with the bumps, and so Eric is supposed to be working up something on the sidewalk issue, and Pamela was supposed to instruct Tom to remove those steps that crosses that little arroyo in the front with no handrail, and yeah, those were, anyway, so that's pretty much where I've been with that, so.
What have I done? Went to a Bent community meeting and took another tour of Bent. I'm getting to know Bent very well. I've seen that my flashy signs have been paid for. I'm excited. $10,000 I wasn't expecting, but next time I'm going to glue some little flashy lights on there myself. And then had the broadband meeting. I guess the most important development from the broadband meeting is that the schools and the libraries were there, and they are going to be part of our action plan for community involvement, community education, and that kind of stuff. So very, very excited for that. We've got our tech team and all that. We just need somebody to run it. Yes, that's the biggest thing. Went to the Tiburon Fire Department Association meeting, and heard some of the hiccups with dispatch that's still being worked out. Hopefully by now it's a little better. Still excited for the dispatch to be successful. They're just working out their problems. What else have I done? I think that's about it. Got a new grandbaby. I was appointed onto 2 committees for NACO. I'm excited about that. Also been looking into the Disaster Resilience Committee that I think I'm going to be considered to join. This will give us funding for emergency situations. My purpose is to find flooding funding. So we'll see how that goes. That's all I've got going.
Okay. Okay, since our last meeting, I attended the New Mexico Sheriff's Conference in Ruidoso.
Sorry.
Goodness. I attended the Otero County Grazing Advisory Board Committee meeting. I attended the meeting that Commissioner Matherly was talking about with the Forest Service, Game and Fish and Wildlife, Range Management Task Force, Spike and Kelly Goss, and Representative Harlan Vincent was also there. And we attended a meeting with U.S. Forest Service with Erica Luna, kind of giving us a rundown on her leaving. And I worked at the Otero County Heritage Day that's sponsored by the Flickinger Center. This is a great event, and it was attended by a lot of people. I know RB was there representing his family business. It was really good. And like Commissioner Matherly said, we toured the Weed Community Center and had a meeting regarding the trash dumpster situation up there. Attended the Otero County Cattlemen's Association meeting in Weed. We enjoyed a great meal up there and a lot of good fellowship. It was fun. And then I've been invited to speak at the American Stewards of Liberty Conference in Irving, Texas in a couple of weeks. So that's what I've been up to. So Pamela's not here, so she didn't leave you a report, did she? Okay, so Arby.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's a short month, but a lot happened, and I don't remember all of it. But in addition to the meetings that you've all discussed that we were all at, I provided testimony to a legislative, New Mexico Legislative Committee in Las Cruces. It was, I had both senators and representatives on it. It was the Criminal Justice and and Prisons Committee, something like that. And why I was there was to speak on what was SB 172 last year. It was the no detention of immigrants bill, essentially, and it would have shut down our processing facility out at Chaparral if it were to be passed. That was the intention of it, was to prevent the type of intergovernmental agreements that we have with ICE that is currently paying the outstanding bond on that facility. So I provide testimony. The county managers of Cibola and Torrance County also provide testimony. They're in a little bit of a different boat. They, I think the private prison corporation owns their facilities there. So that's the difference, but this legislation would potentially impact them too, and the situation they're in, they've been told that by Core Civic, who operates their facility, that if it did pass, they would, Core Civic would shut down. And that is a big deal for them because for a few reasons. One, they rely on these federal contracts and the funding that comes from them to operate their county jail facilities. And as you know, we already have a statewide issue with being able to house county inmates, and that would, I don't even know what would happen if those two facilities closed. It would be bad. But in addition to that, like one's in Estancia. I don't really know how big Estancia is, but I don't think it's big. And that facility employs 230 people, so like pretty much the whole town. So if it were to close, everyone would be out of a job. But some of the senators didn't seem to think that was that big of a deal. And I provided information on our bond, of course, and the consequences for us if we were to default on that. But I also provide just some stats on the immigration process and the consequences of certain current policies and this considered policy. For people who come in requesting asylum, if they go to a processing facility like ours, the timeline for them to be fully vetted and their case to be heard by an immigration judge is between 35 and 45 days average nationally. And that's what it is for our facility. And either their claim is valid and they're granted asylum, or they're sent back to their country of origin. Most are sent back to their country of origin. On the flip side, for people that are just released on their own recognizance, the backlog to get through the court system and have a determination made is 4 years. And that's with numerous facilities operating across the country, like our processing facility, and the goal of the advocates is that all of these be shut down. So you can just imagine what the backlog would be then. And in most cases, individuals in this limbo status cannot legally work. So what are they doing, and who's supporting them? Who's paying for that? I provided facts from the city of Yuma, whose hospital paid just last year $26 million for immigrant care that is not being reimbursed by anyone. It's being absorbed by the hospital. So if their goal is realized, it'll lower the standard of living for everyone is essentially what will happen. You need to go to the ER, and you'll have a longer wait because there's several other people who otherwise would be in one of these facilities where there's medical care, where there's 3 meals a day, where there's clothes, where there's access to hygiene and plumbing, showers, etc. But they don't want that because that is inhumane. So that's where we're at. The odds are not in our favor. I don't think it'll be considered this upcoming legislative legislative session because it's the short 30-day and most of that's budgetary. But it'll definitely be back in 2 years. And so we're working different strategies to help our argument and position. I did reach out to the advocates in the middle of the testimony and offer them the opportunity to come tour the facility with me or any of us anytime, and whatever concerns they have about treatment, we can look at, and if it's something wrong, we'll address it. Like, everyone should be treated humanely and with respect and dignity. And I toured that facility earlier this year, and that's what I saw. But if they can point to an instance where that's not occurring, we would address it. So that's an open invitation to them. We did go look at the Weed Community Center last week. I think I'll go to their meeting next week, but we are working on we found some promising grants for playground equipment. They have existing stuff. It's pretty old, but really the only thing that needs replaced is the slide. It's the dangerous one, and there's other dangers to modern life. If it was any of you or me, like, there's monkey bars, and swings. A lot of broken arms from friends and schoolmates from swings, but it's a rite of passage. But there are some good playground sets available, and we'll be able to get them something good that the kids up there and any kids of the grandparents that live up there will be able to utilize probably. So we're working on that. If there's anything that you had that's outstanding that you wanted to ask me about, just let me know and I'll think of that. I did want to address, after our tax meeting last week, there was an article and kind of made me come across, I guess I made myself come across as kind of harsh and seemingly dismissive of voters, and I wanted to apologize for that and put it on the record that that was not what I meant, but I am against policies of direct democracy. We often, it's said in this chamber that we're a constitutional republic, a representative democracy, and that's what the founding fathers intended, and they were against direct democracy because there are many problems with it. And and I share those views, and that's why I expressed the opinion that I did, and I'll have that opinion for any type of thing that's direct democracy, referendums, bond issues, other things going directly to the voters. You're elected to represent the people and put in the due diligence to understand issues fully and weigh them and consider them in ways that the majority of the public doesn't have the opportunity to. And if they don't, they're welcome to come talk to you and express their opinions and what they think if they are invested, and if they don't like how you make a decision, the process is they don't vote for you next time. And then today, I'm just going to throw this out there. The Healthcare Council presentation, it's important that we take care of the community, and that the commission has a responsibility to the welfare of the citizens, but what that looks like and the mechanisms for it, there's different opinions on how it's executed. And kind of what that was getting at leans more towards healthcare as an absolute right, and I don't know what your opinions are on that, but there are different opinions on what that means and what it means in a republic, in a capitalist society. And words like health equity have multiple levels of meaning, and just as we go forward, I'd ask you to look into that, those type of things as you consider what policies you want to see for the county and how you want to see them implemented. So, that's my 2 cents for today.
All right, anything else?
I have a couple questions for RB real quick. Just, have you heard any response on the letter that was wrote to the governor about support for, or trying to get support of the National Guard to the border?
Yeah.
Didn't really expect to hear anything either.
No. Yeah, that's nothing on that. As far as SB 172, I don't think the governor leans heavily towards supporting the closure of facilities like that. So that is one area of support on that issue that falls more to where you view things than on other things. But I don't think the Guard's gonna get activated anytime soon.
The other item was, you said last month that on the Rose Street court, that the other attorney didn't show up. Have you been to court on that yet?
It is next week. It's September 13th at 1:30.
Can we come and, is that going to be over at the courthouse?
It's all virtual now. But I can send you the link. You can hop on and you get to see. It's a one-stop shop of all the magistrate hearings that day. So there's like 30 people on there at once, and you know, some defendants are in jumpsuits and others are sitting on their couch and with the phone looking up their nose. So it's an interesting experience, but anyone can hop on, so I can send you the link. It should be relatively short. It should be to schedule a date. So the attorney on there now is Todd Holmes. The previous public defender was kind of, he was being sneaky. We were corresponding and I thought working together to resolve this outside of court, and which is what I wanted, just want it cleaned up. But he filed a trial for a speedy motion, or speedy trial, which hasn't been addressed, which is strange. But I have not opposed it because, sure, let's go to trial. We've got all our evidence, and so we'll see what they have for scheduling next week when we do the hearing.
So what exactly are they going to trial for? For him to clean up the mess or not to have to clean up the mess?
Well, it would be a violation of the ordinance. We cited him for junk vehicles and the trash, 2 different ordinances, and each one is a maximum fine of $300 or 90 days in jail if convicted. So he would either get fined or jailed, and hopefully that would incentivize cleaning up, because if it didn't, then we'd just file it again. But
okay.
All right. Anything else? Nope. All right. We don't have anything else. We are